My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Darkest Dungeon 2, which is a roguelike RPG. Roguelike, haha, you caught me. Roguelike RPG developed and published by Red Hook Studios for the PC in 2023.
Yeah, it is a game where you're on the road. Yeah. This is a road trip game. Everyone talked about Final Fantasy 15.
There you go.
Yeah, but this is a road trip with the boys.
Mm-hmm. My fucked up
boys.
My
fucked up boys. My fucked up, grody, traumatized crew. This episode, executive produced by Jack, a friend of the show. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for throwing Gary this treat, and also the many apologies that you have preferred to me in chat and on stream.
Yes. This is my time to shine. I'm trying to think of what this is a revenge for. Like what the last thing is that was just like absolute Cole candy that was not Gary candy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. You dislike so many more things than I do.
That's hard to. Hey, you know what? Tough titties.
Yeah. I'm not saying that as a criticism. It's it's one of the dynamics on the show is that you feel things much more deeply than I do. In fact, it's a defect of my character.
I'm very in touch with my emotions.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis video games. But this is a big treat. I dislike a lot of stuff. Don't dislike this. Love this.
Yeah.
This is so we changed a little bit how you executive produce. Jack was under the old model. The new model, though, so just so everyone knows, you now purchase this from the store. We have a store on our Patreon. It's a one-time purchase rather than changing your tier and then changing it back. And then if you've ever, the way that old way worked, if you executive produced in the past, if you did it now, it wouldn't alert us that you changed it. It was a dumb system.
Yes.
New system, better. So just go on there, click the store page. We're still making sure that works out. We got the first few of those coming up in this first kind of quarter here. It looks like it's going good.
Yes. Yeah. And that's how you pick a game for us to cover, including this one, which is, gonna tell you right at the front. It helps to be conversant with Darkest Dungeon 1, especially to think about and talk about this game. So I'm going to refer people to another episode that Jack executive produced, the episode about the first Darkest Dungeon back in 2021. It is episode number 331, though that is premium, and we recommend you get the full version of it to hear about the heroes and the areas and stuff. The generalities are there. So if you want a refresher or anything, we have covered this in the past. This
is not a like a 1.5 sequel.
Right.
This is not, they could have done a boss and hero pack sequel for that. And I would have been happy with that as well. Oh, yeah. They took a pretty different tact with it. Right. And they very specifically set out not to do that. So those comparisons are very important because it's not, everything in this game is a reaction to the first one. Basically, whether it's going to hit harder or hit for you at all is going to vary, but it is a swing.
Yeah. And a divisive one at that. Yeah.
Yes. In this game, you play as the Scholar. Your research from the first game has unleashed a force of madness named the Iron Crown onto the world. The Iron Crown's been around, but you have dug too deep.
Yeah, you have enabled it full access to the entire world as opposed to just creeping out from the Darkest Dungeon, right?
Yes.
So this is an apocalypse, and you are kind of caught in this looping quest as you hire these bands of heroes to travel across the land to the mountain where this power is focused, in hopes of defeating it once and for all.
Yes. The biggest mechanical departure of this is the structure. You are doing, this is a long time ago, and I can't remember which episode it was. I bemoaned the fact that there were no like meaty roguelikes. Like a roguelike session tends to be between 30 minutes and an hour. You know, and I was like, what would a roguelike look like if it was like a 3-hour play session?
Right.
You sat down and played a complete game of the thing, and it was 3 hours or so long. That's what this is.
Right.
They're long road trip runs. You're not in a town building things. You are still making permanent upgrades. There is kind of a town screen, but instead you are making full runs through this. So imagine in Darkest Dungeon 1, if the loop of play was not one dungeon which you go to get a trinket or clear a specific boss, it's instead to go to the end of this act and complete 1/5 of the game. Ideally, obviously you'll fail because it's a roguelike, but that is the idea.
Yeah. And there are many, many other ways in which this kind of changes, but talking about those is going to be the bulk of the episode. But I think that is the broad thing, which is to say, like, the very shape of this is different.
Yes.
And, you know, that is one of the things that kind of divides people. I like this a little bit better. Because in Darkest Dungeon 1, it really feels like you can just fuck up 50 hours worth of progress, and it would be so much work to get back to a point where you can proceed that it is it's demoralizing. This feels less demoralizing to me.
Yeah, and that's the gene. You know, that's the DNA we're talking about. That's the difference, is whether that demoralization happens, and people get demoralized by different things. Like I've been thinking about that a lot lately with, because when we talked about Golden Idol and how like the last puzzle, when I opened it up, I was like just exhausted, you know, or like the second half of Baba Is You, you know, I get to a part, I'm just like, oh, fuck. Like where demoralization creeps in is an important gamer psychographic.
Yes.
Like what are the things that give you that feeling? Because nobody's into the feeling of demoralization.
No,
you know, that, you know, and what causes that? Is a gamer psychographic thing. There's also a really important difference in this game in terms of tone. Yeah. That's more flavor, but I think that one of the game's unquestioned wins, at least for me, is flavor. Yeah. This has one of the most delicious flavors of a video game to me.
It's very good.
Of something we've played in a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
So roguelikes require a different structure. So let's talk about the development here first, and in that, kind of talk about some of the broad line decisions that they made and some of the aesthetic stuff as well.
Yes.
So most of these developments most of the development details here are pulled from a very good interview, lengthy one conducted with the creative leads, done by Brian Crescente in 2021 for a feature on the Epic Game Store. And this, you know, a sequel to Darkest Dungeon felt kind of inevitable because of the success of the first one.
Yes. Yeah. Which was a surprise. You know, for the people who made it. The main motivation, you know, as I mentioned, they did not want to make Darkest Dungeon 1.5. They wanted to cover new ground. They did a cool thing, something I always respect when devs do, where they give it up to the modders and players. Darkest Dungeon 1.5 exists for you if you want it. It's called the Black Reliquary. It's on Steam. Yeah. You know, it is a total conversion mod that is Darkest Dungeon 1.5.
Yeah.
Along with all kinds of classes. They wanted instead to break new ground.
Right.
And this caused a lot of big shakeups.
Yeah.
You know, the structure and theming of the old way would not work.
Yeah.
The creative director, Chris Barassa, said he wanted the sequel to be a counterpoint to the first game. The first game is very bleak. This game is not. Finding new kind of confidence in yourself on the heels of failure.
Right.
There is a lot of theming about this, about self-forgiveness and letting go. Yeah. This is a hopeful game, ultimately.
Yeah, which is a wild departure from the first one. Yes. And also, do not let that being one of the first things that we mention make you think that this is, you know, really saccharine, right?
Oh yeah, there's absolutely no saccharineness to this at all.
No,
which I appreciate. It's hopeful the same way like Torment is hopeful.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, reckon with your mistakes and recognize them, and they were awful, and you caused a lot of problems. Yeah, you know, you did those things, but there's still a future.
Yeah.
You know?
The game itself and the tribulations that you see there are just the beginning of a cost associated with with these actions. One of the first things that you're going to see that is a difference is the fact that they made a switch to 3D graphics to give the game its own identity. That isn't to say that suddenly this is Unreal Engine 5 and there's a ton of chromatic aberration and super detailed kind of folks. They've made 3D models and applied filters to make it look very much like the woodcut illustrations of the first game. And I like it. I like it quite a bit. Yeah, these animations are really good.
Everything looks really good. The old one, when it looked like a woodcut, it was good. When it looked like a paper doll, it was harder to get on board with, in my experience. And that was just a function of its budget and it being a graphics last, kind of game. This game actually looks good, I think.
Yeah.
And this is on top of like the monster design stuff, which I think is, again, really laudable, like close to best in class for a lot of this stuff. Yeah. Music is also real good, I think. Nothing super standing out. There's no individual track I love as much as the Color of Madness tracks from the first game, but I think the music here is generally good and earwormy.
Yeah, they got the same composer back. They got the same narrator back.
Yes. Yeah. And they wanted to tell a story about how that madness, from that first game, like there's no way to succeed in a way that really mattered in the first game. It was going to get out. How did that affect the larger world?
Right. Yeah. And, how did it affect the larger world implies and kind of demands that you go and see a wider variety of places. So instead of just showing the stuff that happened around the estate, right? And that, I think, makes this feel much more desperate. It makes it feel like you are kind of every foot that you move forward gets you further out on a limb. A little bit. And something else they wanted to get away from was this idea of just being a bad boss, right? In Darkest Dungeon 1, you had these little anonymous dudes who were accumulating these traumas and you were rotating through them and sending them to their deaths to bring you back treasures and stuff. There's a great quote from this interview where Chris Barassa says, Darkest Dungeon is a medieval hockey coach simulator. Darkest Dungeon 2 is a medieval road trip simulator. Which is another way to kind of talk about that structure.
It's a thing where one of the things that Darkest Dungeon 1 wants to impress on you to succeed is the disposability of your heroes. And that was a wall for a lot of people. Like they just could not get over not caring about their little guys. You have to care about your little guys here. And we'll talk about this a lot later, but your little guys have to care about each other.
Yes.
Again, it's a very hopeful game. This road trip structure was inspired by the 2014 Brad Pitt World War II movie Fury about a tank crew, meaning at least one person saw that.
I never heard about that.
When was the last time you heard about Fury? Fuck, dude. I don't know what that's about.
It apparently made a huge impression on them. They talk about it like it's this fantastic movie. It might be, but you can see where that would come from in this desperate situation, caught in these tight quarters, arguing and bickering with each other, but ultimately trying to work together towards the shared goal and also surviving. Like that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Yeah.
The way that they talk about the game, like these developers come across as very smart and thoughtful to me.
Yeah. Yeah. The smart dudes. The party members used to have kind of classes, but they were interchangeable individuals. And there was some timey-wiminess that was going on, that the reason why you get a bunch of copies of Crusaders. But there would be things like Crusader Convention in town and you get like 6 Crusaders. No longer. This is they use their default names. These are all defined characters and they have backstories. They had backstories in the first one.
They did.
You would get these through little lore notes and everything. But now these are front and center. The way that it's a major mechanical concern and story concern to explore the backstories of these characters.
I was really happy to see this in the interview that I read because I made this comparison in my head, thinking about the way the characters had changed between 1 and 2, specifically the Flagellant, which we'll talk about later. But I was like, oh, this is kind of like characters in a fighting game. Like Sub-Zero has changed identities. Like there's different Sub-Zeros. Scorpion has gone from being bad to good to bad or whatever. But like they're always roughly the same archetype. They stated that like, oh yeah, we thought about them as like Street Fighter characters. Like broadly they're the same, but like as the games go on, they kind of advance to different parts in their story. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a larger scope game. So they expanded the development team from 5 to 14. Can you imagine? Like this is scope, the scope creep of having 14 people work on a game. Just absolutely bonkers. This game was announced in 2019, hit early access on the Epic's Game Store in 2021. And it has changed a lot. It's worth noting, I didn't follow all the change logs. I don't have notes about those things, but I have played this game since early access. I played this game since it was originally available. And there were a lot of things that are pretty different about it. Some it is definitely a smoother and better game now. There are some ideas that you can see them. It's kind of sad, like an idea that had potential that you could see them giving up.
Right. Can you give an example of like one of those?
Largely the relationship system has been really revamped. To be less punishing and a little bit more intuitive, but a little bit less present. Like you can ignore it a little bit more. In this, you can't really ignore it, but you can ignore it more than you used to be able to. It used to be kind of the primary concern. Right. Was managing whether your characters liked each other or not. Now that is one of many kind of plates you're going to spin throughout the game. And it is a key to success. In this, like, my best runs all have everyone absolutely, best buds at the end. I don't think you can win the game without everyone being best buds.
Oh, you can definitely screw an entire run when you get to the end and it's like negative relationship.
It's a thing you control for though, right? Yeah. Like you have it's teaching you to check on that. As you go and kind of manage that as you go. That's a big change. And then a lot of balance stuff with just individual bosses and stuff, which is down in the nitty gritty, but makes a really big difference. The Act 3 boss was a fucking nightmare. Obsession was just total dog dick, like just dog water bullshit boss. And they keep nerfing it and they couldn't figure out how to do it. And now it's kind of easy and that's fine.
Right.
Like that might still change. As this is a moving target. This is still getting updates. It will continue to get updates. But it's been really interesting to see, to play this every, big new update and check it out. They added the paths system. They changed the paths. So the paths are reworked now to do different things, like just a lot of changes as it went. You'll see also real itch hours. We talked about Baldur's Gate. This happened with Darkest Dungeon 1 as well. This kind of developing in public thing, I think, makes for a better product. Some people have, feelings about it and they think that they're just like, oh no, just present me with the thing and I will decide if I like it or not. This kind of, we're going to listen to feedback as we go has always resulted in smarter games. To me,
with the downside or with the risk being that pronounced negative feedback at the start might kill a system that has really good articulation, right? That is the risk.
Like a specific system and have it go away. And in Darkest Dungeon 1, at least, the way they handled that was by making things optional. They came up with the idea of corpses in Darkest Dungeon 1, and then they made them something you could turn on or off. That we talked about that in that first episode on this. That's something I respect a lot.
A cute story that I pulled up. One of the encounters in this, the Churgeon guy throws leeches and kind of it turns your dots against you, your damage over time against you. That encounter was designed by a Make-A-Wish kid who was a very big fan of the first game.
Yeah, it's really cute. And it's a neat encounter too. Like the way that character is designed to try to help but hurt, it hits the flavor perfectly.
He just wants to drill a little hole in your head.
He can give you trepanation. He's trying. It's very stressful to get trepanned when you don't need it. He's one of the only sources of cure disease in the game. Like he can do a bloodletting skill on you, which will get rid of diseases on your characters. It just hurts a lot, makes you bleed a lot because he's bad at it. The flavor again is fucking impeccable. The game got pretty good reviews. Seems to have sold pretty well. Everyone was real quiet about it at the end of the year. I wasn't expecting this to sweep any awards. I was kind of surprised it didn't end up on anyone's personal list that I saw. Because it's one of my favorite games of the year.
Another danger. Like Baldur's Gate seems to be the exception of an early release game that makes a splash when it reaches a 1.0, you trade a little bit of hype.
100%. It's also a niche product. Like this is demanding and weird. So there's an expansion that's came out, the first DLC, hopefully of a few, called The Binding Blade, which introduced 2 new character classes and a new encounter set and kind of quest line for one of those character classes. I played through one of those. They did a really smart thing with that, where they introduced a character who is a jack of all trades. Like, they brought back the Crusader. He has a quest line that's real fun to follow to unlock him. And he's really good. He slots into any party. Yeah. And then they introduced the Duelist, who is fucking expert mode as shit. And I'm really bad with the Duelist. I have not gone very deep with the Duelist.
Right.
She is hard to use. And I think it's something for everybody, right? Like, if you have mastered all these systems, you want a really challenging character, really high skill ceiling, you can do that. But also, if you just want your old buddy, Renaud, back, you get it back.
Yeah. Just, man, Dismas was so lonely.
I know. Dismas had to kept falling in love with the leopard. I'm like, Dismas, you can do better. Like, he's falling apart. Dismas.
Oh gosh. So let's talk about the structure here. We're going to be approaching this a little bit differently, and this is also kind of a newish approach that we've come to when it comes to playing a game or kinds of games that one of us really loves and the other is about. I'm about this kind of roguelike. Even though I like it better than the first one. But yeah, I think, Gary, even though I kind of laid out the outline here, I'm going to have you lead with details because I just don't know this as well as you do.
I get wrapped up in the meta for this shit. Like, I watch YouTube videos about it and everything. Yeah. Like, the thing I'm learning, between this and the end of last year and stuff with Baldur's Gate 3 is, like, I am a strategy hound. Like, that is I am a truffle pig for it.
Yeah.
If something is, that is my home base. So this kind of thing is home to me.
Yeah. A different kind of strategy is my thing. Management kind of stuff is more my deal. I have played enough of this to get familiar. I've played like 20 hours, right? Which is about what we usually budget, for 1 week worth of show on this, right?
Yeah.
I got pretty well, I got pretty good at the second confession, okay, not great. But that is roughly where I was at. So.
And it's also a thing to lay out everything on the table. I'm not a master at this or anything. Like, I have played a lot of it. I've beaten all 5 confessions and then can get through the first 3 of them very consistently after that. But it took a lot of luck to get the final ones. I had a really good team, and a lot of good luck. It's not like something where I'm regularly doing Act 5 clears on this, in part because of that weird structure that I was wishing for, where it takes, 3 hours to do it.
Yeah.
Like
multi-sitting runs. Yeah.
Yes. I like that it exists, but I'm glad that most roguelikes are not that. I'm glad I can fire up Isaac or Monster Train and play for a half hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for generalities, we're going to talk about the structure of a run. So we can talk about the kind of the systems of this and then talk about the individual classes, biomes, encounters, and monsters.
Right.
And we're going to talk about the Candles of Hope, which is your run-to-run upgrade system, which is kind of to the back of this just for clarity.
Yeah.
This will all make sense. We'll end up talking about the whole thing, in a game without a traditional narrative structure. We're going to try to hit all the bits, but we'll get, so trust that we'll get there.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the first and most major things that you do is every hour you choose your confession.
Not every hour, every run.
No, I'm losing my religion at every whisper, every hour. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I did say that. Yeah.
Every hour if you're like me and you're really bad at it. And you only have 1 or 2 choices. No. So, the flavor around this, this is a game about flaws, and the scholar is attempting to, undo this thing that he let loose on the world. And this process involves, confessing his own flaws. And this is how the difficulty is selected. There are 5 of these, and we'll talk about each of those. The way it changes the end game, kind of at the end of the episode here. But these are unlocked sequentially by clearing and conquering the mountain.
Yes.
This determines how long your journey is, what biomes are available, like how many regions you're going to have to go through, how strong your enemies are, and what your final boss encounter will be.
Specifically, which biomes you go through, not just how many.
Yeah.
So certain biomes are more advanced. You only get them on higher confessions. It determines whether you have to beat one of the bosses. That's the big change on the first confession. You don't have to beat one of the bosses to fight the end boss. Later confessions you do. And it doesn't just scale up. So it's not like if you're doing confession 5, you have to go through like 7 regions.
Right.
It's not an all-day game in that case. They're pretty steady breakpoints as you go.
Yeah.
The other thing is kind of the flavor of modifiers you're going to get. For these, there are certain cosmic class, like cultist enemies, that will have certain abilities depending on the confession that you have. This also determines what happens when your flame gets low. The flame is what you're carrying. It's hope. You're carrying across the world here. And it is this thing that interacts with this system called loathing and your kind of world tendency modifiers here.
Yes.
Unlike the first game, there are no advantages to going low flame.
No.
You might have some trinkets that work well in it, but generally you want to keep that fire going. It's not a thing where it's higher risk, higher reward if you're going in the dark. Going in the dark is a bad idea in this game.
Yeah, those trinkets are just to hedge a bet, really, not to kind of ride close to the line and engage with higher risk systems.
And you can do that technically, but I'm not there. Like I could do that in Darkest Dungeon 1 and I can't do it in this.
Right.
Yeah.
So after you choose your confession, you compose your party at the crossroads.
It's worth just saying the crossroads. It's worth, this is obvious to anyone who's played it. This whole thing is narrated again by Wayne June. Who's fucking incredible still.
Oh yeah.
So just seeing the crossroads, a place between places. It is my favorite video game narration that's ever happened. I don't think that there is better narration in video games than these games. I like it more than Bastion or Transistor or what have you. Very good.
By committing to the tone, and it's not like this is humorless. Like there's some sardonic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But like by committing to the to the dark tone and the heavy gravity of everything, I think it is far more successful than what you end up with in a super giant game. No matter how much I like those, right?
Yeah, I like those too. I just the Wayne June. But anyway, you go the crossroads, and this is where you choose your party makeup. You have 4 slots. They're in a marching order, similar to the first game.
Right.
You can check the individual. You have your selection of classes in the beginning. You'll unlock more as you go. And they will get a random element when they're new. So you can check their quirks or what have you. Those are rolled each time.
Yes.
Each hero has 11 skills they can choose from, but they're going to start out with fewer than that. You can have 5 active at a time.
Right. Yeah. A big change here. You can only have one of each kind of hero.
Yes.
So it can't be like, I really like the Plague Doctor. I want to have one with the damage over time skill set for the front rows. I want to have one that does the buffs and the healing in the back rows. No, you have to find somebody to fill those roles in another class out of that. Yes. I think that is a big deal with this.
When they also they redesign the characters to do so.
Yes.
To make that work in here.
Yeah.
Those skills that you get, instead of being this graduated set of skills that go up to level 5, skills just have a mastered version. You get mastery points as you go. They start out as unmastered, and then you get these points you can put into skills shared across the party to kind of buff individual skills. This ends up being a really interesting choice you're making. What button are you hitting a lot? It's like, do I like this skill? Also, some of these are real night and day.
Yeah.
You can add a lot through mastery. And there are also some things that are just marginal gains that you get. Yeah. So this ends up being an interesting choice you're making to use this resource.
Yeah. Sometimes that mastery also takes away some downside as well, or expands when a skill will be usable. If it has a requirement on it that needs to be like for a particular health range or for
lessens a cooldown, perhaps things like that.
Yes.
So you're creating a party. You want a balanced party. You need a healer, a support unit, DPS, and tank generally.
Mm-hmm.
No hero fully does one of those categories. A lot of characters are versatile.
Yes.
Yeah. You also have damage over time that you can do. It's good to spread these out. Different. You're going to be going through multiple regions. It's different than Darkest Dungeon 1, where you don't want to bring a bleed hero into the cove.
Right.
Because those characters are resistant to bleed. You might go through the Shroud, where characters are resistant to bleed, but then after that, you might go through the Fetter, where characters are vulnerable to bleed. So each character being more versatile here, you are going to have both.
Yeah.
Or having one, if you have your Plague Doctor who can only inflict blight, in an area where everyone is resistant to blight, if you don't have ways to punch through that resistance, you might have that character do support for that biome.
Yeah. And with that, it benefits to have as many skills unlocked as you can to kind of shift them. And you can change what skills you have assigned at any given time here.
Anytime you're not in combat.
Yeah. This particular change to the way damage over time was handled is the thing that fucked me up for the first 5 hours that I played this.
Okay.
Because my old strategy of, just really, really leaning on and basically just like saying, okay, I got my blight team, I got my bleed team. I'm going to stack as much of this as I can, and that is going to be the primary and kind of sole way that I'm going to do a bunch of damage, is to basically render enemies into being Walking Dead. It feels like they very specifically got rid of those exploits that I kind of learned, which makes sense. This is a whole new different game, but that was a hard habit to break. I was like, I'm going to beeline for the Flagellant and the Jester, and let's fucking go, baby.
Yeah, let's bleed him out.
Yeah, and then Flagellant doesn't do bleed anymore.
He does blight now.
Yeah, what the fuck, dude?
Well, Jester does good bleed. My Jester build, I think that what they're trying to do, one of the things that's interesting about playing this game and being as familiar with the first one as I was seeing the intention behind a lot of things.
Yeah.
And they wanted to break that, I think, as a thing. Like, it's still possible to do, and paths come into that, right?
Yeah.
Like, Plague Doctor is one of my favorite classes in this, maybe my overall favorite. And I build for that and still do the thing you're talking about.
Yes.
End up trinketing and pathing out for them to just be able to punch through resistances and always play things down. It just, I have to have everyone else doing other stuff to support it.
That kind of speaks to something that is a little bit of one of my problems with this game, and this is kind of a taste thing. But thinking about why Monster Train works for me and this one kind of doesn't. One of the places where this falls down is that it is way too well balanced. It is so well balanced that every advantage is so matched by a disadvantage that most of the action happens in the margin, and things are kind of held in place kind of statically or much less swingy than I want them to be.
It's fascinating because it's a thing where that becomes, and I would never invalidate an experience. That gets less true the more you play it, which isn't on you.
Right.
Like, as you learn how to take advantage of those margins, and I think this is a reasonable flaw, like a reasonable critique. As you unlock more things through the game, that becomes less true, and you're able to specialize more.
Yeah.
So you're able to swing more. It is very possible to build for those kind of swingy, unbalanced things. That you can get. Some of it is knowledge that comes over a longer period of time in the first game, and some of it happens later in the game. They want it to be balanced at the start, which I don't necessarily think is the best decision. Like, I would agree with that. Unbalanced, and this is one of the reasons why I love Isaac and I don't like Spelunky very much, is that Isaac is very unbalanced from the start. You can get a lottery run that shows you more of the game and is very exciting, and as a treat, you're not just, doing the basic tools. And we don't put in the work to unlock everything.
It's a taste thing, or it's a patience thing if you take away any, virtuous connotations from patience, right? Because we're just talking about a video game or whatever.
Yeah, who gives a shit? There's no virtue involved.
But yeah, I just when I look at a system like this, I can admire how well designed and how just wonderfully integrated everything about these systems are, while also thinking, okay, I can enjoy an intricate system, but ultimately a lot of my fun with something like this is going to be looking for ways to break it. And when the first 20 hours don't present me with a lot of opportunities to do that, I feel a little sad. I don't feel as engaged.
I get that. Like, you want a treat.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. I get that same way. No, that sounds dismissive, but non-derogatory. Like, gamer treats are huge. You know, like a well-balanced gamer diet contains many treats.
Yes, it does.
You know, every 10th pack pellet should be a power pellet. You know, and this game is more balanced than that.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing concern. Them trying to do that is what all that early access stuff was. Was them trying to get it to that point. Like, I largely agree with that criticism. It's just something that for, you know, I'm not trying to convince you, but to say for the audience, it is something that fades.
Right.
You know,
makes sense. After I did a smattering of the skill unlock things, you know, learning because I wanted to see the character backstories, because I think all that stuff is really cool. I picked, you know, a few to go all the way down on, and like getting all the way down the path. And like all of those end level skills are really, really good and really powerful. It's just specific.
Yeah, it's not just like a linear path. There are things where they suggest specific play styles.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, some of them would be useful or useless for certain kinds of play. Like, they ramp up in complexity rather than value. You know, and with that complexity comes the ability to kind of, you know, break that curve and unbalance the game in your favor.
Talking about that specificity, let's talk about paths just a little bit. These are things that you unlock by putting candles into a particular character class, into a particular hero. Yes.
The most fucked up game of Operations ever been.
I need 45 candles. Stat.
Yeah. My family is dying. I keep putting 3,600 candles into them. Yeah. Vitamins, water, sleep, 365 candles. Help, my family is dying. Yeah.
That's how you get that one faction from Monster Train.
And a faction from here, actually.
Oh, yeah, true.
There are also candle people in this. You get paths, which are specificities that you can have for a character. We're not going to talk about all these. When we talk about the characters, it'd be nuts. There's basically something about their past they can lean into. And if they do, it gives them a smattering of stat changes and can actually change the effects of their skills.
Yeah.
When you choose one of these, it'll give you an overall description, you know, like Blight Specialist who trades buffs for Blight intensity. Cool. I want to play a Blight Plague Doctor, so I'm going to play the Alchemist version of this. Yeah. Things like that.
You know, I want to play like I want to specialize into high damage and also healing. So I'm going to play the Surgeon, Plague Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. I want, you know, this is a support character. This is a damage character. It allows you to specialize.
Yeah.
These are really important too. The base version of them, you never want to use once you unlock the rest of them. The base version, their only buff is they get more candles, basically to unlock the other things.
Right.
So every class in this is basically 3 classes.
Yeah. So they got rid of a bunch of the stats, which I think is a good decision. Each character has a speed stat and some innate condition resistances for particular debuffs, things like that.
These are still expressed as percentages.
Yes.
But they're the only things that are presented as percentages. The biggest change in the combat in this is that they use tokens, which we're going to talk about more when we talk about actual combat. But the idea of a percentage to hit, percentage to miss, things like that are gone.
Yes.
Now, they've switched to a very board gamey kind of form of this.
Yeah, which feels like a more pure expression of what Darkest Dungeon 1 was already going for.
It's so much better.
Yeah.
Like it's really good. It's easy. Once you know the symbols, it's super easy to grok. And like internalize things. Like I'm no longer comparing a 75% hit rate to a 15% dodge rate. Like I have no idea what the math is between those two rolls.
No.
You know, now it just makes sense.
Yeah. This can be a little bit daunting to figure out what each of the little tokens means.
100%.
This is an interface problem that they're going to have to address when they bring this to consoles.
I have no idea how they're going to do it, because you have to hover over this shit.
Oh, there's just so many tooltips. You need the tooltips. I tried. Yeah. I did a lot of playing on this on either the Steam Deck or on Steam Link, but like learning, I had to default to playing it on desktop so I could get those tooltips. So.
Yeah. It would have to come with a little key.
Yeah.
You know, like a board game would have. You'd have the card that every player gets that explains these things. Once you know them, I like this system so much better. But again, it requires learning.
Yeah.
The heroes come with a mission. They can complete this to get a reward. So they'll be like, oh, I want to clear out a den. You know, if they do that, they get a thing. You get extra candles, things like that. And then, as we mentioned before, they have baked in positive and negative quirks. There are many of these. We're not going to list them, of course. They touch on all the systems. These are a huge deal. When you are choosing a team, I find avoiding the absolute killer ones of these more important than like being your primary concern for party composition. Yeah. You can make a party with a slightly suboptimal composition work, assuming nobody fucking whistles all the time and makes everybody hate them. Like, in like real life, I will take anybody who doesn't pull out the acoustic guitar at a party. If you whistle all the time and nobody likes you, you're going to have a fucking bad time in the dungeon.
Yeah, oh yeah, incredibly bad time.
And some of these are fucking nuts. Like there's a thing that makes your character charge to the front rank in the beginning of every fight, and you can have that on a backline healer.
So I'm not going to take that character.
Yeah, that character is unusable. Unlike the first game where you had a lot of control over when you fix that, these can now be either you can get new ones just through a variety of events, and you can get rid of them or have them locked in at field hospitals, which are nodes that you may or may not run into. Yeah, you cannot count on getting rid of these. Later, they unlock items in the inn that can get rid of these as well, but you can't count on it. So you don't want to take shitty quirks.
Yeah. You don't want to take a chatterbox because, you know, they're going to have many more like little banter events on the road. And every time they talk, there's a dice roll that makes somebody fucking hate them just a little bit more.
In real life.
Yeah.
You know, and because that happens, that's going to have knock-on effects and just kind of, you know, snowball your run there. This knock-on effect, this is a system called affinity. Characters have a relationship with each other that rates from 1 to 20. With 10 being neutral in there. And every time you rest it in and set out, depending on that, and a couple other, you know, different things you can have, equipment on your stagecoach, elements from the inn, you have a dice roll to see if you form a positive or negative relationship.
Right.
This is huge.
Yeah.
This is real big. One of the things that was changed in this, I just remembered, is they used to have act outs like they did in the first one, where they would just do something against your will. Now they're tied to moves. Which is a lot easier to get around. There.
So this is great. So this the primary thing that this acts upon is your skills. So if you have a negative relationship between two characters, that means that one of their skills apiece is going to be cursed. That'll be locked in. You can't swap that out for one that is not cursed. And every time they use that skill, it will confer a debuff onto the other person related to what their negative relationship is. So if they're resentful, every time, you know, person B uses a particular skill, person A will take like a negative attack debuff because they're like distracted. They won't be as effective next time.
Or a thing that makes the enemy target them.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah.
This is affected by too many things to list.
Yeah.
This happens on the road. So during battles, like who you choose to heal, things like that. You can manage this. That sounds very overwhelming. Like all you're doing is bookkeeping. You don't really have to do that. Like heal who you need to heal, because you get more control over this than you think through items at inns.
Right.
Inns, when your characters are unwinding, and this makes sense. I like this narratively as well.
Yeah.
This is when characters would get to know each other. They're not at work. You can ply them with booze and poetry and playing cards and games of darts and stuff to change their affinity in your favor.
Yeah.
You know, they have a night drinking and talking to each other, and they like each other more. You know, and you want to get these positive.
Yeah.
You know, by the end of the game, everyone should be rolling 18s, 19s. You never want anything less than a 10 if you can help it.
Yeah.
It's a good place to put money.
It's a bit of a poor get poorer kind of thing too, because as you start doing worse in combat, you start getting more stress going
Yes.
on. They're going to have meltdowns that causes negative. Yeah. So like, when we say it snowballs, it can really snowball. You can, your grip on this can be pretty slippery.
Yeah.
If you have a positive relationship between two characters, instead of being cursed, that skill will be blessed, and the other person gets a buff when you use that.
And this is wildly powerful.
Yeah.
Like I had in my run that made it all the way, my front two characters, the skills I used the most both healed stress off the other one.
Oh, nice.
Which made them impossible basically to stress out. These can be really, really good.
Yeah.
So characters also have stress again, in addition to HP. This goes from 0 to 10. And above 5 is a problem. That relates to the skills. We'll talk about that. That's when they're going to start acting out a little bit and doing negative barks. 10, you go into a crisis. And like the first game, you can either go into resolute or have a meltdown.
Right.
Meltdown is the equivalent of a heart attack from the first game, basically.
Yeah.
You lose all your stress, which is good.
Catharsis.
Catharsis. You just freak out. You have a good cry. Go into critical health, and everybody likes you less because you're freaking out on the road.
Right. Keep it together, Dave.
Keep it. Jesus Christ, David Arms. You have to stop this shit. Nobody likes it. I promise you. You can get back from this. It's difficult, but you can come back from this.
Yeah.
In this, again, through cards and dice and booze.
Yeah.
And stuff. But it's difficult. If they get resolute, instead they heal to full. They heal all their stress. Heal a bunch of health, and then just start doing actions that are really good for the party for free. And you have less of a chance of resolute. Similar. So when it happens, it's this mammoth fist pumping moment. You get the little screen, this little drum roll basically, and then it tells you what you get. And I think it's like a 1 out of 4 chance you get resolute. And you get resolute, it's one of the biggest fist pumps you can get in games.
Oh, it's a huge swing that you take too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's super good.
It's not something that you want to count on. Like resolute can't be part of a build.
It is in the first one. It's interesting. They took that away. In the first one, you could build for that. This one you cannot. No. So let's talk about combat, which is the heart of the game.
Yes. This is almost too complex to get into every detail of. So I'm going to rely on you, Gary, to make sure that we talk about the things that really matter about this. So you choose your party and you proceed down the road a little bit to reach your first easy encounter. You start out in the valley, which is just a little like intro area before you get to a real region. Yes.
Like it's this weird little paradise, but corruption has touched your precious valley. You get this little this tutorial combat encounter here. The combat is broadly similar to Darkest Dungeon 1. It's your party of 4 squared up against another party, usually of 4. Taking turns based on initiative. You get the initiative order up front. It's based on speed.
Yes. You can see your turn order partially on the screen in the upper right. I think it's like the next 5 turns that will happen. And there's no ability to retreat. If you are in the battle, you are in the battle. Yeah.
Because it wouldn't make sense for the loop of this. In the first one, you'd retreat, go back to town and lick your wounds. Here, the next, you're just gonna have another battle. Retreating won't do anything.
No.
So the same thing that, something from the first game, this has this very board game like feeling to it. Things that work on you work on the enemies. Damage over times, buffs, debuffs, things like that. Everyone has these kind of qualities that can be applied to them, these modifiers. Each character has a combat item. So you have the 6th slot that you can put a combat item in, and you can use this for free.
Yeah.
And then you select the skill you'd like to use.
And the skills that are available to you are determined by launch rank, target rank, and then sometimes requirement criteria.
Yes.
This defines kind of the structure of any given fight.
What that means, in layman's terms, if you haven't played the first one, would be this is a skill you can only use from the back. The back quarter or the back half, and it targets enemies in the back half. You basically just get to see your range, and where you can use it.
There's a good deal of dimensionality that this brings to me. Playing this alongside playing Baldur's Gate 3, we have an episode of that coming up where we talk about dimensionality of combat systems in games. Playing these next to each other really unlocked for me that the lack of environment in this takes away something crucial for me when it comes to engagement. But there's plenty of articulation that happens here. Individual moves imply different things about the capabilities of the different characters. Like this character can attack the back rank, but they have to be at the front. This person being pushed away, being pushed out of rank is a really big deal.
Yeah. Knockback, there are pulls, things like that, this is the level of abstraction that for me it's not, I don't like this combat better than Baldur's Gate 3, but this is basically the minimum I want from tactical combat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This is not me beating up anybody. I'm just pointing this out. Part of my disillusion with classic console RPGs is it's a version of this that's even simpler than this, where there's just a front and back row. There are no targeting. There's no area. Yeah. This uses targeting and area. There's not verticality and environment to it. There are abstracted versions of some of those things.
Yes.
So while there's no verticality, there are enemies that have cover that will show up, like army people who have things they're hiding behind. Yeah. They express those within kind of the board game rules, but this level of that abstracted is what I need. If you abstract this further than that and have people punching each other in the face, taking turns, that's what gets too simple for me.
Yeah, this exists in this weird, little kind of occlusion zone between simple enough for me to engage with, kind of a broader part of the system, and complex enough for me to really kind of engage with, the space facing things like that.
What do you mean when you say engage with a broader part of the system?
So like with Final Fantasy VIII, that becomes less about managing your turn by turn and becomes more about engaging with the junction system. And making sure that you collect and find enough individual spells to affect the stats that you need.
So you're doing things outside of combat.
Yeah. In order to manage it,
becomes not about the combat.
It becomes not about the combat. It becomes about creating the right circumstances for combat to work in your favor. Right.
Yeah. I think there are games that work that way for me as well. Yeah. I think that in terms of pure, just enjoying a combat. Yeah, this is as abstract as I want it to be.
Yeah, I don't bring that up to fight Pokemon about it. I'm just kind of bringing that up as a little bit simpler. There are it becomes something where you focus on something outside of combat to get your engagement. A lot more complex. You get into real nitty gritty XCOM Shadowrun kind of stuff. And then right here in the middle, it feels like neither fish nor fowl. Just a little bit too much. While again, I admire the shit out of a bunch of stuff that they're doing here. Right.
It's a thing too where it's abstract, which can be a turnoff for a lot of people in general, but it is, no one would ever say this isn't complicated.
Oh God, no.
It's super complicated. So there's a lot to dig in here, but you have to use that kind of imagination you're using, at least a touch of it that you were using to make Final Fantasy 1 feel like battles. Yeah. As opposed to people taking turns pointing at each other. You'd engage a little bit of that. So I get that idea that I either want to go all in on that or not at all.
Yeah,
on that.
Well, what I am saying is I'm an impatient imaginationless man.
I'm not saying that at all.
No, I know you're not saying it. I'm just
I'm saying that you're tactically brain dead. No, I'm not saying that. Not even a little bit. There are things again. No. I love thinking about gamer type shit because the same thing. I liked Subnautica a lot, right? But when I looked at organizing minerals in that, I was just oh God. Yeah. That did that thing for me where it's I don't want to do this, and then you're just yeah, man, I want to create this series of bases and create this logistics system basically for this. They're just different types of brain. They're different types of smart.
Yeah.
And none are qualitative.
Right. Exactly. And that's I think that's something we've settled on as a huge theme of the show. And this game kind of existing at this, space in between us, I think, listeners can identify with one or the other of our complaints or, compliments about this.
100%. Yeah. And then we can come together. There are also games that do more holistically. And that's why we make shows about them. And that's why, Real Hours exist where it does that. But everything outside of the combat is also really good and interesting.
Yeah.
So not to just make this into a commercial for that, but
but it's impossible. While we play Elden, those 2 years we spent playing Elden Ring, every game that I play on this show, kind of plays off against that. And now that we've turned our attention to Baldur's Gate, it is really hard because I am always playing that, not to compare what I'm playing for this show to that, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah. In addition to having those different kind of skills that will change your rank, one of the biggest changes philosophically they made from this to try to encourage people to be less conservative are skill criteria, which means you can only heal stress and health at certain thresholds. Somebody has to be hurt or stressed out to de-stress them. It becomes a lot less about keeping everyone topped off. Every once in a while, there are skills you can kind of use for that. Later Vestal skills will kind of allow you to kind of play in that space, but it's hard. They don't want you to do that. They want you to heal when you need it and do other things when you don't, and to play less conservatively. This is a big change. This took a long time for me to get used to because I tend to play games conservatively.
Yeah. If you are like a compulsive reloader,
Yes.
in the ammunition sense, not reloading a save thing. If you're a compulsive reloader, you can't do that here.
You have to break all of your bad gaming habits. You have to fucking use consumables in this. Like every bad gaming habit you have, this game is designed to break.
Which is admirable, right?
Yes, I think so. Like, I think that those are bad habits. The token system, which we referred to a couple times, this is huge here. So the buffs, debuffs, damage over time, all of these things are represented by tokens on a character. They have a little icon that describes something, and there are tons of these.
There are so many. There are ones particular to individual regions. There are ones that are like for an individual monster, for a boss. Different characters have different tokens that they can get. Like, you would think that this would constrain the possibility space a little bit because so many of them would have to be bespoke. Not the case.
Yeah, it's just a way it's just shorthand. For what's going on with the character.
Right.
A lot of these are consumed on use, and they work the same way every time. So again, once you learn this language, it's much faster. It's like learning to type versus like hunt and peck, basically.
Yeah. It becomes a vernacular for the advantages and disadvantages that you have in combat. So when we say these are consumed, say somebody uses a skill that brings on taunt. Right.
Yes.
They may have, one or two times where that will work. So as the taunt token is available, anybody who attacks, that attack will be drawn to the person who is taunting.
The next two attacks or what have you.
The next two attacks. Yes.
You put a blind token on somebody. They have a 50% chance to miss on their next thing they do. And then the token goes away whether they hit or miss. There. Coupled with this, there's no chance for skills to miss. Every skill hits, mitigated by these things like dodge tokens, your character's blind tokens, and then they will do the damage they say they will do, which is still a range, is still a dice roll, but is reduced by guard tokens.
Right.
So instead of having protection or having characters be tougher, they generate these guard tokens. They either block 50 or 75% of the damage.
This is one of the ways that the game gets easier on lower difficulties or with the Radiant Flame is that you'll start out battle with guard tokens on people. So the first few rounds, you're not going to be taking a ton of damage.
And, you can get quirks and trinkets and stuff that do that for your character and skills. There's also what they did was in the first game, there was this thing called Mark, which you'd have characters for setup parties. One character would mark a character and then they would take additional damage or effect. From a skill. They've changed all of that to change it into a combo token.
Right.
Now that is just a modifier that will change certain skills. So you can add a combo token to something and the skill can be like this will make a character act last in the round. But if they have a combo token, it might stun them and they'll lose their action.
Right.
So, and these synergies work both ways. You don't want these on your characters. The bosses will have things or enemies will have things they can do to you. If you have these, as opposed to mark parties, which were really fiddly in the first one, everyone kind of engages with this system.
Yeah, everybody has at least one skill that will be set off or enhanced by a mark.
Yes,
or by the combo token.
And you want to keep this in mind. So this is getting a little bit ahead into a character, but I think it illustrates all of these points really well.
Yeah.
So the leper in the first game, really, really high damage, really low accuracy.
Right.
That was the whole thing with the leper. You had to give him accuracy trinkets. Now, the way that works is the leper has a blind token. He has a good chance of getting every turn. He doesn't get it every turn. So most of the time he has a 50% chance to miss. However, his skills ignore that on a marked character. So there you go, right? Like that is how they capture the flavor of a hits hard but has low accuracy character. You still need setup. and he still has low accuracy, but instead of having it be this Byzantine set of percentages, like he has a 60% chance to hit, I put a plus 15% on him. He has a buff that gives him plus 5%, but the enemy has a 20% dodge, which that's algebra. Instead of that, you just know, oh, he's got a blind token, but this guy's got a mark.
Yeah.
He'll hit.
I also like what this does for combat momentum. And I love the way that very specific example illustrates like this mechanic playing into the theme of building your team and building this relationship between these characters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They set each other up for success.
Yeah.
Like this is a good group of good friends.
Could be.
Yeah.
they might all slit each other's throats in the night.
Well, someone whistle. Like, have you considered that somebody whistles all the fucking time?
How dare they?
Yeah. So the skills that you have can do a lot of things. They can do damage, damage over time, debuffs, buffs. They can change rank, movement. All that stuff is important. That's like where these tactics come up. There are 3 types of damage over time. A new one was added. From the first 2 games, there are bleed and blight. There's also burn now. Like always, these are just different flavors of the same thing.
Yeah.
They're just for resistances and stuff. They don't have different extra effects.
This is one of the things where like the token system encompasses this, but it does not tell you everything that you need visually. Like a bleed token put on somebody has a bunch of different potencies, assigned to it, based on like you can still like stack them, but what that means is the enemy will take more damage on their turn when they get to it. You can extend the duration of it just by looking and seeing that somebody has bleed. You do not know exactly how effective that bleed is going to be.
Yeah, damage over time remains very effective in this game, both against you and against the enemy.
Yes.
Yeah. You have crits. This is expressed as a percentage again, which gives extra damage, better status penetration, longer damage over time, better heals, things like that. You can build for this kind of thing either through paths or trinkets.
Yeah, and certain classes are built around crits as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Most of their success will kind of come from that. Corpses are here, and they're here to stay. This is a game that is built with a corpse assumption. When enemies or heroes die, they leave corpses behind that remain in that rank. So killing somebody at the front line does not automatically cause people behind them to advance.
Yes, which it kind of has to be, because if they could, then the backline people who can't attack the front line would immediately become useless. You have to spend a resource to do that. You can use skills or consumables to clear corpses. You can also just attack them to kill them. When your hero reaches 0 HP, they end up on death's door. They have a percentage that's death blow resistance. So they're more likely than not to not die the next time they get hit. So you get some turns to get them off of death's door. This is returning from the first game. Yeah. Up until the most recent patch, this is also how enemies worked, and nobody liked it. It was infuriating.
So I need like an extra like up or down die roll to that sounds hard. Yeah,
how many you could get really bad rolls. See, I was talking about the Pokemon trading card game, and having our character be asleep for 10 turns.
Right. You know? And so just like I am throwing turn after turn into trying to keep this guy down. Basically, I have no control over it. Yeah, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, they got rid of it. To their credit, but that does fucking suck.
Yeah, because like enemies that have death armor, which are basically like they do not end up on death's door until you attack them at 0 HP in order to like get rid of that token. Enemies that have that's a really big deal. That's one of the things that makes cultist encounters really difficult. Is that a lot of them come out of the gate with some death armor, right? Yeah. The fact that was pervasive is wild to me.
Well, they still have death armor. They used to have let me clarify just in case I might have misspoke. They used to have death blow resistance expressed as a percentage.
Yes. Yeah.
Now they have death armor, which means they start with a token. That means they get to 0, they lose the token. Then you hit them again and they die.
Yes.
DOTs still work for this. And you can have the execution trait on certain moves, which will bypass tokens.
Yes.
It can be very powerful. And then you can have knock-on effects that like when you execute, you heal stress. Shit like that. It's way better this way. I wish they had thought of this for the first game, honestly. It's a really good system.
Yeah. If your hero dies, their corpse is going to remain. They're still in your rank. You have bigger problems than rank at that point if your hero dies, such as being down a turn. It immediately puts you on the bad side of an action economy. Yeah,
it's really hard to come back
Yeah.
from losing a hero. That's something that they've talked about. Kind of knowing is a problem.
Yeah.
You can deliver the remains to the inn. You get a bonus for your next run. You get candles, and then you can hire a replacement at the inn.
Yeah.
That's all good. And there's a class called the Bounty Hunter, which you can only get this way, who's very powerful.
Yeah.
I can't speak to him. I've never got him. I don't know if it's bad die rolls. I've never gotten the fucking Bounty Hunter.
I was hoping.
I don't die a whole lot. Not trying to, no gamer peen, but I don't lose a lot of party members except until at the end boss, I can consistently get to the confession, but I've never gotten the Bounty Hunter.
The thing about the Bounty Hunter is he can only be there for one region.
Yes.
And then when you get to the next day and you have to replace him with somebody else.
He also takes some of your candles.
He does.
He eats them.
Yeah.
Wax lips. They're waxy good.
Yeah. Obstructive.
Yeah. He's toothpaste like that Edith Finch kid. like that little idiot.
But when you replace them, you can't replace them with the same class. Like that person in this loop is gone. So say your flagellant dies, you can't bring that freak back. Yeah.
Yes. He's gone.
Yeah.
I would love for them to work out a way to make it easier to get a replacement. Make this a node. That's a big enough cost.
Yeah.
I think make you do a bespoke fight that is designed around a 3-person party. You could do something.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will come in a patch or a DLC. The way you navigate this and get to all these different combats and such is the road. We're not doing a maze of a dungeon where everybody walks in place and then walks backwards hilariously. Instead, you control a stagecoach barreling down the road here as you're getting narration and kind of flavor and sound effects.
Yeah.
You can run over road detritus. This is a little bit counterintuitive. You want to run over shit. You don't want to dodge it to get that. And as you ride, your characters will banter with each other based partly on random chance and partly on those quirks and their relationships. And then, really importantly, they heal. This wanting you to be less conservative, spend less time in battle healing other than a crisis, you will get a lot of healing on the road in this game. You can end, at 20 HP and end up the next one, you gain 15 health points just from traveling.
Yeah. And so, as you're choosing your route, which we'll talk about in a minute, you do, a tip that you gave me, Gary, which was pretty important to my success is like, you may end up choosing like a suboptimal route that aims towards something a little bit less desirable. If it means that you don't have a mid-road encounter. So you have more time to ride and heal. Yeah. If you need the heal, like that is a desperation move that you can take. So working that into the opportunity cost, in addition to all of the other factors that, determine which way you go, is a smart thing to do.
Your coach has a couple different kinds of health. You have armor and wheels, and there are different hazards on these paths that you can have, either rough roads or ambushes that will take these out.
Yeah.
If you encounter, so you get those 3 chances. If you get the 4th one, it's 3 once you upgrade. It starts out as 2.
Yeah.
If you get that 4th one, then you get a special encounter versus bandits. These are not always led by the antiquarian.
I loved that little trivia detail. Just that faction is led by the antiquarian back for revenge.
The antiquarian is the mini boss of the bandits. It's really fun. These repair encounters are a battle that you get where one of your character has to spend the battle repairing the wagon.
Spend a turn. So their only action that they can, the only action they can take is to work and repair.
Yes. So this is to be avoided if you can.
Yeah.
Obviously. And this is another resource you're going to get. You can buy these at inns. During certain encounters, you can improve or, fix your wheels or your armor, and you get those buffs with them. If you have wheels and you have armor, if you have all your wheels, you get better bonus healing on the road. If you have all your armor, you start with that armor buff.
Yeah.
In the battle.
Yeah. I like that. And I like the way that it turns, like different non-combat routes into a depletable resource that also tugs on the treasure and stuff that you find later on.
And a surprise that can because you don't always know, you might know what's in a node, but you might not know what the path
Right.
There's a scouting system in this.
Yeah.
When we talk about nodes, so the closest, this is not the thing that invented this, but the thing that it looks the most like is Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
If you played Slay the Spire, that's what this looks like, the map.
There's a similar thing, to keeping it to games that we've covered in the past. This is also similar to the first chapter of Inscription.
Yes.
The way that's structured. Yeah.
Yep. Inscription, but like going way back to like Alter Ego, you have this kind of thing where you are going through branching paths and choosing which nodes you go to. Sometimes they're not scouted. Sometimes the paths aren't scouted, but those are the choices you're making.
Yeah.
And you got to be really intentional about this stuff.
Yeah.
You can end up on a path where it has an immediate gain, but it's going to put you somewhere you don't want to go. This is going to max out my loathing. This is going to max out, this is going to take all my wheels. Even though I'd really like to get to that field hospital, is it worth losing all my wheels for?
Yeah. Is it worth losing all my wheels for that? Or is it worth steering, that will steer me past the boss's lair and this might be the last region I go to before the mountain. I need to do that boss's lair to get the trophy to get in.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way you can see what's ahead is either by visiting a watchtower or certain encounters with peasants. Assistance encounters.
The assistance encounters, they can give you information about the region. This is in addition to like a role that is scouting. Like you can customize your stagecoach to be better at that. Like you can put a little crow's nest on it, which I love.
It's real cute. So there's those road hazards, those rough patches on the road. There are void tears, which we're going to talk about later. With what's the loathing in, and then combat encounters.
Yeah.
One of the things that they added in the latest patch are the combat encounters with barricades, which are specific combat encounters.
Oh, I love those things.
Yeah,
those
they're
are
new.
Good.
Yeah, they're really good. Soldiers, it's like a new faction basically of fighting soldiers.
Yeah.
And when the path branches, again, you're always making choices in this game. Your heroes will have opinions about what you do. They'll say like, I want to go to the watchtower, and someone else will say, I want to go to the academics study. If you choose the one they didn't like, they'll take a stress.
Yes.
If you choose the one they do like, they'll heal a stress. So you are managing this on the road through your choices as well.
Yeah. And, looking at that trade-off, like, okay, I can soak the stress in order to make an unpopular decision.
Yes.
That will take me to something that will benefit us in the long run. Right.
Or that'll be, or even will benefit them. Like they don't want to go to the sauna. They don't want to go to the oasis, but I know this is going to heal your stress. So I'm going to take you to the oasis.
Yeah.
When the encounters happen, a lot of times you have a choice of how to handle them, and your team members will have opinions based on this. And again, that will influence not their stress, but their relationship to each other.
Yeah. This starts out neutral most of the times, but as their relationships develop, then it turns into like a stronger push and pull related to that. What I also like is that the consequences of their plans are shown. Like you might not know, like when you go to the academic study or whatever, like what quirk you're going to get for doing it, but like it will show you, what resource you're going to spend and what you're going to gain roughly, which is also good information.
There's also a really cute interface thing that happens with this, where when you get into a fight, your characters, someone will say, let's run away, and you'll lose some torchlight. Someone will say, let's fight them. We can get the drop on them, and they'll get a little token, like a speed token. And then somebody will say a third thing. When you get to the end, everyone just says, fuck yeah. Like you hover over everyone and they're just like, no, we have to do this. Like everyone's very determined. It's very sweet. It doesn't present an actual choice because they all mean the same thing, but it's showing your team is on board.
Yeah.
For this.
Nice. Let's hit that loathing system because this is it feels a little redundant to the flame to me. I want to this also feels like it's more activated on later confessions. So I want to hear more about it from you.
Loathing is just I would say this is kind of a superfluous system. To me, it's another plate to spin. So the way the loathing works is on the road, you'll hit these things called void terrors. And this will add a loathing. You have a loathing count. When it fills up, it buffs the end boss. And you don't want that to happen too many times, obviously.
No.
You reduce this by fighting certain kinds of fights. So doing a fight in a node will reduce this.
Yeah, it's specifically the resistance fights, right?
Yes. Resistance fights or the fight at the end, the cultist fight will do this. Layer fight will do this. Basically, if a fight is not on the road, it will take care of this.
Yeah.
That's really all it is you don't want the loathing to get too high because it's going to make the end boss harder. You manage it. To me, this is maybe one too many things to manage. I don't find managing the loathing that interesting.
No. Mm-hmm.
It's just another thing I want to keep under control.
Yeah, it was very hard to determine how serious it was.
Yes. It because a lot of times especially early on, you're not going to make it to that boss. So it's kind of an empty threat. I believe that early on, this used to be different. I think that it used to be when you max this out, you had an encounter right away with cultists.
Okay.
That's no longer the case though. They've changed this. I wonder if this will survive. I think it is a bigger deal also on other torches you can use. We talk about the kind of metagame in between the Altar of Hope. There's the easy mode torch that I play with because it's, the game's hard generally. It's not really easy. And then there's a series of challenge torches that do different effects.
The Infernal Flame. Yeah.
Yeah. This might be more of a thing then.
Yeah.
The main thing I want is Wayne June to go, the loathing festers. That's what this does for me. That is good.
Yeah. Let's talk about the different kinds of encounters you can do. The different kind of main nodes that you find. What took me a little while to grasp is that how many different factions are in play. I thought each region just kind of determined the kind of things you were going to fight. But hitting different kinds of things to basically being able to predict what kind of thing I was going to run into.
There's a region specific faction, and then there's factions that are in every region.
Yes.
So you're not going to run into Feder enemies in the Shroud, but you can run into cultist anywhere.
Yes. Yeah. So you're going to run into region-specific ones at the resistance encounters. You want to hit these. This is one of the ways you reduce that loathing, but you also gain mastery off of the back of these as well.
Yeah. And money. There's an economy in this game as well.
Yeah.
Assistance encounters, this is the main way you're going to get your torch up. These are people on the side of the road. You're spreading hope. So obviously, Wayne June says, the hope you give is equal to the hope you get or whatever. You can steal from these people if you want to get a lot of things, but generally they will give you some flame and help you out. Give you some food, fix your wagon, give you a trinket, things like that.
This is generally a beneficial exchange.
Yes.
Because that flame
you don't want to
level,
hit too many of them though, because if your flame level is really high, this gives you plus 30. If your flame level is already high, you might have wanted a different node.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. You don't want, just everything over 100 is wasted, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like vitamin C.
Yeah. Just piss it out.
Yeah.
There are cultist encounters. There's always going to be one of these at the end. Later, correct me if I'm wrong, on later confessions, sometimes they put one at the beginning as well, or kind of closer toward the beginning.
They can show up as a regular node on later confessions. It's not necessarily towards the beginning, but it can just be an option.
Yeah.
These are just tough fights that reduce loathing.
Very stressful. These guys. Yeah. And something I was like, wait a minute, aren't the cultists the jabronis? Like, why are they so? Oh yeah, no, of course they would have gotten.
They've taken over the world.
Yeah.
They're the ascendant party now. They've mutated in cool ways.
Yeah.
Creature dens. These are caves full of monsters, like animals. You fight these in order to get a trophy to bring to the end to get a passive benefit.
Yeah.
So this might be something like 2 mastery. It might be -3 stress for everyone. A big chunk of money, things like that.
Yeah. I love the flavor on this. Innkeepers are always looking for weird ingredients for their dishes. Yeah.
The academic study here. These are things your mentor left behind. They're just a place to get equipment here. The cash rather is you just get equipment and items. These are always good. You always want these. The academic study is a place to interface with the Eldritch shit that he was messing with. These usually you get a choice of 2 items. So I either want money or trinkets or whatever, and then a chance to get a positive or negative quirk.
Yeah.
This is also where the Shambler is, which is a mini boss that used to appear. You can fight the Shambler if you want to. You get good items from it, but it's hard.
I never fucked with the Shambler. What is that fight like?
It's hard. I've only fought it once. It's real similar to the first game where he shuffles you is his main thing, but then he has these little tentacles that he brings up that get more powerful the longer you leave them.
Oh, okay.
there. So you have to kind of balance fighting them and fighting him as he shuffles and stresses you out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It makes sense to talk about one of the other unique encounters you can get at a node. I didn't put the Churgeon's Den in this, but we should talk about the shape of that encounter as well.
Yeah. Oh, and there's also this probably the time to talk about the Collector as well, which is a random encounter. But the Churgeon's Den is a place where that mini boss lives with his patients. Mm-hmm. That mini boss is real cool. The way that he works generally, without getting into it, is that he hurts you by helping. He's like lemon grab. You know, we care by yelling and love by poking or whatever. He tries to help you in ways that are awful for you. So he kind of turns your, if you have damage over time, like he'll heal them at great damage to you. Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah. If you stack damage over time on him, it turns into healing. So if that is your strategy, then it
doesn't work. And the way the reason why you're fighting him is to get the very powerful trinkets he has that he uses in battle. So that thing that cures your damage over time and turns him into a heal, he drops that. Yeah. You can have that on one of your party members. And then anytime you get damage over time, it disappears at the end of the turn and you get a heal. Yeah. That's insanely powerful.
This is also where you get that spiked hat that I put on the leper all the time. And it's like, fuck you. Every time somebody attacks that person, they get bleed.
Yeah, really good. This is opt-in, unless you put yourself on a path for it. The Collector's back. He came back a couple patches ago. He shows up if you have one of the boss heads. He has a chance to show up. He works exactly like he does in the first game. It is a King in Yellow like figure. This skeleton with a Mikolas cage on his head, who has the heads of the three standard heroes of Dismas, Junia, and Barristan.
Love it.
Who comes out. He's great. And you get their heads, which again are very powerful trinkets. Yeah. Which is why you want to do it.
Huge thing, which is one of my favorite additions to the game, is the Shrines of Remembrance.
Oh yeah,
these are the places where you go. You select a hero to relive a memory, and you unlock their skills by doing this.
Yes,
I was constantly steering towards them because I wanted to talk about these stories, but also this is one of the most meaningful things you can get.
They're really good. Like the way they did this is super clever. These are 5 chapters. We'll talk about these more when we talk about the characters a little bit, but some of them are just narration, like beautiful, good narration. And then other ones take the game mechanics to illustrate a scene from their history.
God, they know their systems so well.
They do
to turn this into everything in the Plague Doctor path is just the top of class.
All of them are super good. Like there's none of them I dislike. That I've done. They're really good, and you want to do them, especially early on. Like this is a finite resource. Eventually these won't show up after you have everything unlocked for everyone. But they're something you should beeline for. The field hospital is really good. This is one of the main ways to get rid of quirks. You can fix positive quirks in place, and you can also buy items that heal. Which are pretty rare.
The Hoarder is a merchant that
it's the poor old innkeeper from the first game.
Oh, is he? No.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is what he's turned into.
He differs from the inn merchant, the provisioner, because he has more powerful stuff. It is the randomness of the encounter, plus the randomness of his stock, to get for. Oftentimes, like a thing that came up very commonly for me for a region's kind of like little mini mission was to avoid this guy.
Yeah. And it's worth noting there's always a shop at the inn. So you have to have money to make this worth it. And you have an inventory limit as well. So you can't just willy-nilly shop here. The Watchtower does scouting for the rest of the region. The Oasis is really good. You can choose either a big stress reduction or to gain Oasis like spring water, which is a powerful heal and stress heal that you can use for free. Like a consumable, but it doesn't cost your action. That's really good. Taking that into the final boss is huge.
Yep. Like kind of like a free space that's pass and go.
And then the lair. The lair is where the region's boss lives. It is a staged encounter. You fight the first encounter, which is with the basic enemies of that, the second one, which is the advanced enemies, and the third one with the boss. And you can choose to leave whenever you like.
Yeah, I like that press your luck mechanic. My understanding was earlier versions of this game, there was just a broad like campaign wide press your luck related to like when you decided to because you couldn't abandon your campaign early. I like press your luck mechanics in general. Like it will show you in between rounds what is coming up next and what the rewards are. Yeah.
You want to do this because you get these trophies, which are very powerful, boss specific trinkets, and you have to have one to get into the mountain past Confession 1.
Yes.
To get in there. A really interesting thing is that everything in this game scales with your level except for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no advantage to fighting the first region layer.
Right.
You will not be as powerful.
No.
Through there. And Wayne June will warn you. You'll do that. You'll go, not before you make the choice. You'll set down the path and you'll be like, the path you've chosen, are you sure you're ready for it or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
There are bosses you can beat right out the bat if you know what you're doing and you're built for them. Generally, you want to take the last layer boss you can.
Yes.
Unless there's one you're aiming for because you want their trophy.
Yeah, their particular little thing.
Yeah.
Every region ends with the inn. You stay at the inn, and there are multiple facilities there. Each of these is basically it would be like a town in a different RPG.
There's multiple inns as well.
Yeah.
So the inn will be called something, and then that will give you certain benefits to it. They almost always heal you a certain amount and give you stress to a certain amount, but there are a lot of other perks and negative things you can get.
Yeah.
And this is where you're going to stop and take stock and prepare for the next region. It's a really natural stopping point if you're playing this like a roguelike. To do a region instead of doing an entire run.
And that press your luck is there too, because even though you can end your campaign at any time, there is strong incentive to at least reach the region's end because you get a big candle bonus.
Yep, which will make your future runs easier.
Yes.
The main screen is your party all lounging about. And you use in items to improve affinity, to prepare for upcoming battles, to heal stress, to do a variety of effects.
Yeah.
This is one of the things you unlock a greater variety of as you go on. And there are a lot of cool things you can do. One of the things, this is again, a kind of a bummer when you were talking about how it didn't have those swings early on. This unlock system, a lot of really powerful things end up here. Like there's a T that has like a 67% chance to get rid of negative quirks.
Holy shit.
Which is really good. And then one that has 100% chance and then a small chance of getting rid of a positive one.
Okay.
That you can do. Things like that are really powerful. And once you know what bosses you're going for, you can buy or gather items specifically. So like, plus 40 stun resist in the next region. While I'm going up against the shackles of denial, I want that stun resist. For this. Things like that.
That makes a lot of sense. These inn items, this is something that quirks can interact with. If somebody has a negative quirk, like if they're temperate or whatever, you can't use the whiskey. Some people just will never play cards, don't like music, anything like that. You don't want to get those sticks in the mud because it, even though it does not like actively detract on their relationship, it makes it so you have fewer direct opportunities to influence it with things you can buy. So you're buying in items, you're buying combat items. You can also buy things to equip your stagecoach and trinkets. Trinkets work similar to the first game. You have 2 slots, and this gives you benefits, oftentimes with trade-offs, sometimes with not. With rarer ones, there are rare ones that are just benefits, like just plain 20% damage. And then there are cursed ones that you can get where these are very powerful, but they come in pairs. You have to take one of the dark trinkets, which has generally a really good effect, in order to empower a second one that has a generally really good effect. So you're trading the chance. And a lot of these are very specific. One of my, just really, really laudable runs, again with the leper, got a thing where if they have a blind token, they had plus 66% crit as a thing. And then I had, a token set up where I would, had my jester continually setting them up. So they were always going to be blind, always had this huge crit, and just became this chopper. Nice.
And I shredded through everything that run. Like you can come up with really cool synergies and combos and have that lottery winning feel from this kind of stuff. But again, it's chance.
Yes. You've got 2 currencies to work with. This mostly plays with the inventory limits. Your inventory can be expanded by equipping your stagecoach differently. So you've got relics and baubles, and what is it? Different regions have different relics, or is it both have different for each?
I mean, they look different, but they're the same thing. There's just relics and baubles.
Yeah, they spend differently, but they stack. They stack differently too, or they spend the same, but they stack differently. There we go.
Yes, the two of them. So one of them is used for combat and id items. One of them is used for trinkets and stagecoach items, and repairing the stagecoach.
Yes.
You get a mastery trainer. So this is where you upgrade your skills. You can also change your hero's path. I've never changed a hero's path mid-run. I don't know if that's useful. The Wainwright, this is where you slot in your stagecoach items. You slot in your pets, which we'll talk about, your flame, and then where you repair your ship.
Yeah. Talk about pets here, because I didn't have a natural place to put it, because I didn't really unlock a lot of those.
The pets are little quirks. Your stagecoach can have a pet. Your first in will have a selection of 3 pets that you have unlocked. And you basically choose the pet as a quirk. They give you, the first pet you get is undeniably good. It's worth basically keeping the first pet on almost all the time. It's a little raccoon that gives you an increased positive relationship chance.
Ooh. And
an increased, for every piece of luxury gear, like the carriage, the wagon trinkets have tags on them. So if every piece of luxury gear you have, it's an increased chance.
Okay. So if you have like a still, then there's an increased chance that'll make whiskey.
Yeah. Well, no. It's if you have a chandelier, which gives you a plus 4% positive relationship chance, the little raccoon gives you an extra plus 5%.
Ah, gotcha. Because it might be swinging from it.
Exactly, and it's real cute. These are not as you unlock these get more specialized. And harder to kind of build around.
The final one fucked up too, right?
Really fucked up. The final one's a baby shambler. Which is real cute, and it gives you a benefit for using those dark trinkets.
Okay,
if I recall. The other thing, you put in your flame, as we mentioned for this. The radiant flame is the one that is kind of the base game. The game is a little easier with this, and you lose 10% of your candles.
Yeah,
for this, so you grow a little bit slower but more steady.
Yeah, but also you're going to get further, and I'm probably going to, I don't know. It feels like it comes out in the wash a little bit.
I never took it off. I played this game for 130 hours or whatever. I never took it off. So,
and then finally, one of the last things you do is you scout your route. You see which biome you're going to go to next. You see what its condition is. So kind of a region-wide kind of buff or debuff that happens. Oftentimes it really is like scouting, things like that. You see what your mission is and what your reward is for completing that mission.
Yeah. So it can be something like avoid, do less than 6 resistance encounters. And if so, you get this powerful trinket or 2 mastery points.
Yeah.
Things like that. And then you go to sleep. The next day you set out, you get your little relationship screen if any relationships have changed, and you head on out.
Right.
After your run ends, whether you beat it or retired or died, you get candles. Candles are things that you pick up as you go, either through different nodes or through accomplishing certain goals. And this is your run-to-run currency.
Yeah. Profile experience. Yeah.
Yes. You have a little town that you look at called the Altar of Hope, and you spend your candles here.
Right.
So there's different places where you can spend them. The working fields, this is when you unlock items by category. One of my all-time favorite design decisions is when you unlock an item, you get it for the next run.
That is so good. I like that a lot.
It's really good. It makes the early game easier because they're all really cheap. Like you just get to start with 6 trinkets to start with. That's really good. It allows you to try them. So you know what they're like. Really, really good system.
Yeah, like that a lot. And obviously there's a limited number of those. Eventually, I imagine you start spending stuff on cosmetics.
Yes, I haven't gotten there yet. There's a lot of stuff to spend candles on.
Yeah. You have the working fields. Oh, we already talked about that. We have the Intrepid Coast. This is where you can get stuff that feels a little bit more fiddly to me. You can invest in boons, stagecoach cosmetics, unlock new pets through this, and also advance the Infernal Flames. So if you want to spend resources to get the things that make the game more difficult.
Yeah. The boons are really good. And getting the first pet is really good.
Okay.
After that, though, you can kind of chill. The Living City, this is when you unlock new heroes and improve their skills. This is where you unlock their paths as well.
Yeah, I beelined for this to get all of them unlocked because I wanted to play. I wanted new stuff to play around with. But you get like even just broad upgrades, like improve like base death blow resistance, improve their standard health. Like this is leveling up. This is going to make what I felt like was the most material difference.
Yeah, it's huge. It's this and unlocking items are the two things that are probably the biggest material difference since you get them for that run.
Yeah.
One of the coolest systems in this, and one of the ones that I think the game does a bad job of explaining, is the timeless wood.
Explain that to me.
Yeah, if a cure survives, so you beat the confession, and you don't want to re-roll with a totally new crew, you can give a surviving hero a memory, and by doing so, they will be available again. It won't re-roll that character. So, like, if you beat the confession with the Crusader or what have you, and you like that collection of quirks. You pay money to give that Crusader a memory, and then the Crusader who shows up at the crossroads will be that Crusader again.
Oh, cool.
You don't keep your mastery points, but you don't keep your trinkets, but you keep all of your quirks and things like that.
Yeah. That is, it'll set you up on a good foot for that.
And you can go through the whole game with the same 4 people, similar to how you do in the first one using this system. Yeah. The memories that you give them also are benefits, in and of themselves. And these can be really powerful. Like, the Plague Doctor had one that was like extra stack of plague every time he did plague, things like that.
Yeah. And you could have like 5 of them, right? So like as you go. Yeah.
Yep. So if you have a character you put a lot of investment in and you don't want to lose them, this is how you keep them.
Yeah. Nice. I always die every run ended pretty much. Not many ended with me voluntarily retiring, let's say.
A lot of times when I would get to the end, my character would have some real shitty quirks as well. Like I've fucked around with this, but not tons. If you could keep trinkets and mastery, I understand why it would be too easy, but that's what I'd want to do. With this. But I get it. The Towering Mountain is hero cosmetics, including unlocking their early forms from their memories.
Nice.
So if you want to play as them before they got their job, you can. There. And you have to spend your candles. Anything you don't spend is wasted. Nothing is so expensive that you have to save up.
Right.
So spend everything. And that's encouraging you to diversify. If you have an odd number left, they're saying, hey, just unlock this plus 5%, death blow resist. You'll want it eventually.
Yeah. Or you can also, like, if there is something you want to put that towards, like, I would rather actually buy a whole thing than just put something on layaway, I guess. But like, you can still spend that. So if it's like 5 points to the next thing or 5 candles to the next thing, you can just put that in there. And then the next time you only have to put 4 in to get it. Yeah.
Pay in installments.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the heroes.
Let's do. This is the cool stuff. I love this cast. I love the way that each of them kind of specializes and can fit a bunch of different roles. This is good to me.
I like this crew a lot. I have a lot of affection for them from the first game. I think their personality comes through a lot mechanically, which I think is a cool thing to do.
One thing that I didn't talk about when we hit the party composition, some party compositions have like a nickname. So if your starting crew, with the Man at Arms, the Highwayman, the Plague Doctor, and the Grave Robber is called the Usual Suspects. I wish more combinations had these because my team that I relied on didn't have a nickname, and I felt like that meant I was doing something wrong.
There is a lot of this is brought over from the first game. My favorite in the first one was 3 antiquarians and a hellion, and it was sightseeing tour. Real cute. But I think part of it is because you can't have the repeated ones. There are a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to talk about these exhaustively. We're not going to get too far into paths. And we're going to briefly talk about their Shrine of Remembrance stories. We're not going to go beat by beat through them.
No,
the episode would be very, very long. And I don't want to spoil them, even though, there's typically a spoiler warning on this show. Like if this game seems like your kind of thing, these are some of the greatest joys in it, is figuring out how they mechanically integrate those. I don't want to take that away from anybody.
Yeah.
We'll mention some of them, but I don't want to get exhaustive.
Yeah. So let's start with the Highwayman.
My boy.
Along the coach road he does ride. Yes.
Yep. He's phenomenal. One of the best classes in the game.
Yes.
Bastard hung him in the spring of 25, but he's still alive.
Somehow friends that literally is just a joke that I put in there for me.
Yeah. Keep doing it. I was just continuing your joke.
Somehow friends with a starship captain.
Yeah, I don't know how it all goes. So this is a brigand. He's an outlaw, and generally he can either be up close, like kind of a bleed finesse character, or a distant DPS character.
Yeah, grape shot
here. Yeah, grape shot for kind of cleave. Can do individual targeted damage against back ranks really well. He has a really fucking killer skill in take aim, which makes him faster on the next turn, and then gives him a crit token. So you guaranteed to do a crit.
Yeah.
Really good.
Marking shot is amazing. Making him into kind of a support character. I found the Jester was a little bit better for that. Highwayman is really well rounded in a lot of ways. Works really good at mid rank or front rank. The Duelist Advance is really good if you have a party that can be dancing party. Just because that gives him riposte, and riposte is incredibly powerful. Anything you do that does that means when somebody attacks you, you will immediately counterattack them.
Yeah, really strong. They even nerfed it a little bit from the first game, and it's still really strong.
Yeah.
Really, really powerful character. Really, really versatile. I love that they started out with him.
Yeah.
There. What they added in the most recent patch is a lot of execution abilities as well. Yeah. He's really good at getting past those Death's Door tokens.
Yeah. I like him. And one the only bummer about him is, like, of the characters, he has some of the more boring flavor. Yeah. So this is the same thing for the next one too, but it's like really good.
I love the Man-at-Arms flavor. We'll get into that. Yeah. Strong disagree there, but this guy, he's just kind of a crim.
Yeah.
So the history, when you go through these shrines, he broke out of prison and got called back in for one last job.
Yeah.
But he ended up killing an innocent woman on accident. You have to do this prison break mission where you have to hide from spotlights, if I recall.
Yeah. So, or no, it's you're hiding from spotlights and also doing damage. You want to prioritize. No, it's a riot, and you have to attack the guards with the horns so they don't call in more.
There we go.
More reinforcements. Yes.
Yeah. Really cool. I haven't done some of these in a long time.
Yeah.
And then you have to do the coach robbery where you find out that you actually killed an innocent. Everybody has a guilt.
Yes. Except for the
robber?
leper.
Well, the grave robber is also just
that doesn't regret anything.
Grave robber's pretty into it.
Yeah.
Man-at-Arms. There's a pretty strong argument, and also in the meta, that this is the strongest character in the game.
Really strong. Yeah.
Man-at-Arms is incredible. This is an S tier character. This old combat veteran. He leads from the front. Generally, the consummate tank. Can draw hits on himself while at the same time setting himself up for riposte, which is really powerful. Make him hit me and I will hit you back. And they have to,
it's multiple stacks too. So it's like I trade one attack for the potential to, counterattack whoever hits me again. It does a little bit less damage, but it's still, you're going to do that damage eventually anyway.
Yeah. And it also protects your team. Yes. Really, really powerful. He can apply armor to other party members. He can guard them. Yeah, really, really good. And has a lot of trinkets and stuff that will give him or give the party armor. Really, really excellent tank. The most success I've found usually have him in my party.
Yeah, I eventually came around to really saying, like, okay, this guy is strong. My playstyle gravitated a little bit more toward the Hellion and the Leper, but the Highwayman is super, or not Highwayman, the Man-at-Arms is super reliable. He's what it is.
I wouldn't want four of them.
Right.
But one of them is really, really good.
Yeah.
The backstory, I really like the backstory of this guy. It's like a Peter Principle thing. He was very charismatic and got promoted above his station and kind of assumed he could lead and couldn't.
Right. So he got a bunch of people killed. Yeah.
And it does the thing where one of my favorite things a video game can do where the interface lies to you. During his thing, and I did this forever ago. This is one of my favorite characters, so I unlocked it when I first started the game, but I still remember it. You have the option, it'll be like, close ranks, and you'll click close ranks, but it will tell you that it's going to give your character, your men a buff and move them to the front, but it moves them to the back and weakens them.
Oh no.
It does the opposite because you're a shitty leader. And then eventually all of your buttons disappear and you just have one button that goes, I don't know.
Oh, that's so good. See, I didn't do that. So because I didn't hit on this character earlier, I didn't get to that one. That's amazing.
It's really good. Great flavor. So he has this guilt from these campaigns and eventually became the thing that he thought he was. Yeah, he just got a lot of people killed on the way doing it. It's real similar to the Hellions backstory.
Yeah.
In that way. The Grave Robber, this is my least favorite character in the game mechanically. Grave Robber, you can make her work, but I've never gelled with her in either game.
I didn't I don't care for her too much. Stealth, I don't know.
Stealth is weird in this. The way stealth works is you can't be targeted there. They've changed her a lot, is my understanding. She had a lot of abilities that could only be used out of stealth, which required a turn setup. They've changed that a little bit now, and I haven't really tried her since then.
Yeah. She does a lot of damage. You can bypass dodge and armor. So she will, kind of a reliable damage dealer. But a lot of her really powerful stuff needs to be set up by being in stealth.
Yeah. She can be a dodge tank as well.
Yeah.
Similar to like Man of Arms. She also does Blight. She's like fairly versatile. She can self-heal, which is a really good thing for a character to be able to do. But again, I've just never jibed with the Grave Robber very much.
Yeah.
Her backstory, she murdered her abusive husband, and then their riches dwindled. So she ended up digging up his body to get his gold teeth and jewelry and fled for her life on the road.
Love the mission where you're poisoning his drink as he's doing stress damage to you. Yeah.
Really good. And again, no regrets. She has no problems with anything she did.
Yeah. She chose her life. Yeah. And he gotta go.
Yep. One of my all-time favorites, Plague Doctor. She's incredible. She's a healer and scientist, so she does support, and then can either damage from the front rank with bleed or from the back rank with blights. And has a skill called Ounce of Prevention that buffs the entire team. The resistance to DOTs.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Resisting DOTs basically makes the enemy waste their turn.
Yeah. Incredibly powerful. The blinding fog skill that she does, which will blind blind in the back ranks, which is where you end up getting a lot of like high damage people doing who can hit everybody from back there, like your arbalists and stuff like that. Really liked the blinding fog. Yeah.
The most recent run I did before, to refresh myself, when I did the Act 3 boss, I ended up having a trinket that every turn you had a 50% chance of either becoming stunned or getting a extra turn. And then I had a trinket that gave you the maximum stun resist trinket. So I just had her do the plague grenade, the plague in the back row, twice, basically every turn, and deleted the back row every fight. Like was getting 14, 21 stacks of blight.
Yeah.
Every single time. Super incredible. Her story is really good too.
Yeah.
It's Herbert West Reanimator, basically.
Yeah. I love the lecture encounter where you've got to like sit through the lecture, making all these bad points, taking stress damage, and you have to do your rejoinder at the right time, or else everybody will make fun of you. Yeah.
Until you get the professor to have a heart attack from getting apoplectic.
Yeah,
from your antics.
And this is spoiling. I know we said we wouldn't do that, but the encounter after she revives him, where it goes from like trying to stitch him up as he's bleeding out to switching over and being like, "Okay, I'm really sorry, but I have to kill you again."
Yeah, I can't. I brought life back, but it came back wrong.
Yeah,
really good. Hellion's back. Hellion's great. This is a barbarian woman who's kind of has out of these characters the first one who has a very specific gimmick.
Yes.
She does frontline stuff. She specializes in bleed. She gets more powerful the more hurt she is.
Yeah.
But she has this debuff token called Winded,
Right.
which makes her worse.
Yeah.
You can get rid of it yourself, but it can't be healed normally through this. So you have these powerful things that will give you a debuff. This was the same thing that happened in the first one, you know, and the idea of it, you know, if it's the last thing you're going to do in the turn, it doesn't matter. Like all the stuff will go away at the end. So this can be really, really good.
Yeah.
At this stuff.
I used her quite a bit. It was basically between, depending on the quirks, either Hellion or Leper for me in my front lines. I kind of saw her as like this inverse man at arms, you know, whereas he's a buffing, kind of a buffing guy. She's a debuff front tank.
Yeah. The debuff, the big debuff she has that gives the weakness to the first two rows is really powerful.
Yeah.
Making them do half damage. And if you have a way to get rid of Winded, that works really well.
Yeah. And the I forget what it is. It's like something Lotus or whatever, where when she's in the front rank, she can attack whoever's in the very back rank.
Oh yeah. She has the fly. Yeah. It's not something Lotus. I can't remember the name of it right now. Cause it's in
I can't
Iron
remember
Swan.
the names of anything. Iron Swan. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Some kind of flower or bird or whatever.
Yes. One of girl stuff. Her story, she insisted on joining this war band too young, you know, too confident for this. And on the day of the battle hid, losing face and getting a lot of her people killed.
Yeah.
You know,
in one of the first like mechanical missions, you've got to apologize to a bunch of widows.
Yes. I love that.
fucking brutal.
Yeah. Did really, really good stuff. The Runaway was the first new class they introduced, and one of two. They did not introduce a lot of new classes.
Yeah.
This is a young girl who fled from an orphanage to live as this urchin. She's really powerful, but hard to learn.
Yeah, I couldn't get my hands around her. I tried her for like I think 2 runs in a row, and I couldn't make her effective.
It's a little deceptive. They have her when they list her like her little log line of things she can do. They have her as secondary healer. She has a skill that can heal if a character has bleed.
Yeah.
But I would, she's not reliable enough as a healer. The weird thing, she gets a path that makes her do more damage in the front and do more fire from the back. And she's really powerful with that path if you stick her in the back.
Okay.
Just setting things on fire.
Yeah.
She can be really, really good, but she's kind of, you know, she's not super powerful. Like you have to kind of twist yourself to use her.
Yeah. And also like, I don't know, there's something that I had to learn, which is the sprawl, which is the fire area, is actually really easy. For some reason, early on, it was very intimidating to me. And the idea of taking a very fussy character who had this new kind of dot that did not work very well in this area that I was going through a lot. It made her less attractive of an option for me.
Early on, you only get a choice between two. It's just like the sprawl and the tangle. So, this young girl who escaped the orphanage by stealing this key and then developed this pyromania through that. One of my favorite things about the Runaway is that she's related to the woodcutter, who is one of the gaunt enemies. That whole his like carve the toy thing where he slashes you. Like one of her trinkets is the carved toy. The implication being these are her parents.
Yeah, I saw the woodcutter and I saw he had that bandolier of toys, but I didn't. Yeah.
Cool little
that
story
connection.
Thing.
Yeah. They changed the jester on me.
Okay. Tell me more.
Yeah. So in the first game, the jester was the bleed champion. To me, right? And he still does bleed. And can apply some debuffs or whatever. Here, at least out of the box, very early on, making him into more of a rank changer and a stress healer, made this less attractive of an option to me.
Interesting. Yeah. He's the best stress healer. You know, he's always done that. In the first one, he was kind of one of the only stress healers in the first one.
Yeah.
Which made him more kind of mandatory. Here, other characters will do stress. But the main thing I like the Jester for is very consistent setting up marks.
Yeah.
You know, he can put the token on very easily with his first 2 moves. You know, consistently blinding and putting a token once you upgrade it, or moving forward and putting a token.
Yeah.
You know, really, really powerful. His bleeds, he still has the bleeds, but he can only do bleed to mid rank.
Yeah.
You know, he also has, similar to the first game, he has an entire other build that deals with his finale skill, which I never fuck with. That you know, that's how habit. I didn't do it in the first one. I don't do it now.
Yeah. But the jester can move around and also move other people around. Like you can play people off is a good one. So, yeah.
He also has one of his final skills. He's kind of not mandatory, but I've had him in a lot of my things because his final 2 skills, one of them is called marching order, or marching directions, which puts a unique token on the enemy that makes them move forward, and it lasts for multiple turns, which will disrupt tons of ranks.
Oh, nice.
That. And then he has Encore, which he gives himself some debuffs and gives somebody else an immediate turn.
Oh, okay.
Which is really, really powerful because it
Yeah.
counts as any move in the game, basically that you have.
Nice.
His encounters are real fun. They were like musical puzzles. He basically like ran into the devil.
Yeah.
And it's one of the characters from Darkest Dungeon 1. It's like the fiddler from the Cove in Darkest Dungeon 1, and got this song, and then he eventually performed that song at court, and it like King and Yellowed.
Yeah. It was like a Rites of Spring kind of thing.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Leper All-Star returning.
Leper's real good.
has some profound drawbacks that are very easy to get around. Yeah.
I don't like the Leper that much in the first one. I really like the Leper here.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how better he is.
Yeah.
Very, very excellent tank. Can do tons of damage, but really needs to be in the front. He can't do anything else from the back. So things that stop you from being moved are more or less mandatory for him. And he gets these blind tokens. If you can get over that, he just does tons of damage and is super self-sufficient.
Yes.
Can buff himself, can heal his own stress, heal his own health, give himself guard tokens, give himself resistances. He's really good at those things if you can keep him in the front rank and get around the blindness. So it's kind of a party composition test character.
His story is good. He was this king who made an effort to comfort his followers who were stricken by this disease, leprosy, but he caught it himself and started up this insurrection that he put down and then abdicated, putting in another beneficent or benevolent regent in his stead, and then going off to be like the Hulk, going off and doing his own wandering.
He wanders around. Good guy. One of the more morally good characters in the game. One of the least morally good characters, the occultist here, who is this mystic who is an arcane caster. Does damage, does healing, debuffs, basically any of those things that affect any ranks. Really powerful, but with a risk. This kind of Lovecraftian thing. He gets these unchecked power tokens. What those do is you need to have certain ones, certain amounts of them, certain thresholds to do certain skills, or to have them have certain effects. But when you start a turn with them, they give you a chance of burning. So he basically sets himself on fire through that. This character has been one of the characters that's been patched the most. He's good now. He wasn't for a long time. They changed a lot of the things with him to make him work.
I just the thing that stopped me from using him more is that he fits basically into the same slot as the Plague Doctor, and I know the Plague Doctor so well.
He's a non-elemental Plague Doctor. In a lot of ways,
he's really well rounded. His heal has the downside, like it's just like what is it, like a weird modification or whatever?
Yeah, weird reconstruction.
So it'll heal, but it'll put bleed on somebody.
It's a thing where his damage ceiling is really, really high. The amount of damage he can do. His final move with the burning stars, with the which you have to have a bunch of unchecked power tokens for, is one of the more powerful single hitting things in the game. He's like a glass cannon kind of guy. His mission is cool. It's about him being like a mystic and gathering people for a seance around the Iron Crown, this the symbol that they found in other cultures, and then eventually bringing something through. His finale is fighting the Shambler. With that kind of solo. Pretty cool to get that Burning Stars ability.
Vestal. Vestal's good. She's the team cleric again, returning from the first game. She's like a battle nun. And she has like these bespoke buffs that she can do. Not only Conviction, but Consecration of Light, which is all like a offensive buff, and Consecration of Fortitude, which is the defensive buff. Conviction is kind of her equivalent of the Unchecked Power. She has to build those up to buff her skills, I believe. Yeah,
she came in on a patch, and she has these are unique mechanics. Like one of the weird things of these Consecration abilities is they apply to the space, not the character. So if a character starts in that space, they get the buff, but if another character moves in, they'll get it.
Oh, cool.
Is that. And you can set her up, one of her paths, the Seraph path, I think. That's how she gets the conviction tokens. And then you can make that very powerful because you can constantly be buffing your team while setting up for these powerful skills.
Gotcha.
There. She's also the one that has the heal over time for the whole party.
Yeah.
Things she can give, which is one of the only ways you can kind of stay topped out.
Nice.
Which is tricky. So she's a nun in a convent, and she started indulging her sexy curiosities.
Yeah.
This is left over from the first game, implied in trinkets and stuff. And the abbot took her to the torturer for punishment, and she had to survive this.
Yeah. And horrifyingly, when she escaped, she found out that there was collective punishment. All the other nuns were walled into their quarters.
Awful. Yeah. The flagellant was introduced, I think, in the same patch as the Vestal. Flagellant's really strong.
God, I love the flagellant so much.
Really, really strong. It makes no flavor sense that he switched over to plague.
I think it does. I like that. Yeah. I like it just
he's
because
diseased.
He's so diseased.
He's super diseased.
Yeah, no, he's basically undead. Yeah.
Yeah. It's grody. He still seems like he would bleed to me, but so this is the sadist who was a torturer and then got into torturing himself, like the real life flagellants. And he is basically undead. He cheated death there. And that is why he's full of all these pustules and shit and creates blight damage. Yeah. His whole thing is doing bad things to himself to heal your party. So he can heal stress, heal health and things like that while hurting himself. Really, really strong. Yeah. He has a unique token as well, one that gives him a thing when he gets hurt, he'll heal for a certain percentage. Really just incredibly good.
Yeah. He comes out of the box with a very good corpse removal thing. Fester, I think it is, where we'll attempt to apply blight to the enemies who surround a corpse and then get rid of that corpse.
Yeah, really strong.
Yeah.
His thing, similar to the first game where he became rapturous, he doesn't melt down or resolve. He becomes toxic, which also will fuck with his relationships, but gives him benefits and drawbacks.
Right.
Instead of just one or the other.
Yeah.
Because he's a little bit, so his story, he traveled the land, isolated, to achieve this kind of monastic exaltation, and slowly became undead. And Death herself came to fight him, and he fought her off. But using this very powerful character comes with a risk. At any resistance encounter, you have a 5% chance to fight Death.
Yeah.
Which is a bespoke boss fight that only the flagellant will fight.
Nice.
Death, you do this to get, mechanically you just do it because it's a cool, fun fight.
Oh yeah.
But you get specific trinkets, all of which affect you on Death's door. You get really, really powerful buffs on Death's door.
Nice.
So yeah,
I like the design of Death in this, just covered in holes, Giger shit.
Yeah, it's really unusual, for a Death design.
Yeah.
The duelist I mentioned is a stance character, which I usually don't like. Very versatile, but very, very glass cannon-y. She's very fragile. I've only played with her a couple of times, so I can't speak to her very much. But I was very happy to get the Crusader back. And her story, I think, is her just fighting her teacher, pursuing mastery, like I have to do the very best bullshit. And then eventually realizing that she couldn't, she killed her teacher / lover, and then could not learn from fake fights. So went off to do, just absolute, bullshit. Yeah. Got to be the best. The Crusader,
very well balanced. Yeah.
Super well balanced if you can learn her. Very, very high skill floor and ceiling for that. The Crusader is really welcome. They made the Crusader a lot better in this.
Yeah.
Very, very versatile. Good frontline attacker, really good at executions, can heal stress, can heal health from his companions, can be a tank really well, and has a really nice story and a quest along with getting him. The story, there was a snow coming. You have to try to harvest enough food, and you can't do it. Everything freezes first, so you join the crusade to get money for your family. Go out into the crusades and find that you love it, and then end up just leaving your money next to a flag for your family and going off to fight forever. He abandoned his boy. To get him, you do this, they implanted a quest structure into this game where you go somewhere, you fight somebody, you get a certain item, and then it says like, oh, this is belong to a commanding officer. Then you fight that specific encounter, use that item on the commanding officer, and it gives you this trail of breadcrumbs until you fight a specific mini boss to free the Crusader.
The Warlord, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
And the Warlord was part of his story. He ended up, you fight the Warlord one-on-one, and you beat him, and then your last option is mercy, and you let him go. So the implication is at some point, this guy who he let go came back and got his revenge.
Oh, okay.
For him giving him mercy there.
Huh.
Really powerful, will fit into any party.
So you don't unlock them. You don't unlock them at the Altar of Hope. You unlock them by doing that quest, and then are they unlocked forever on that,
yes.
or is it just like you get them mid-run every time?
No. It's not like they're unlocked forever at the point. The quest, like you can do it in one run technically, but it takes place over a couple of runs usually.
Yeah.
It doesn't reset your progress though. You know, if you got an item for the quest, you'll start with it the next run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
if I continue playing this, I would probably buy the DLC to get the Crusader because it sounds like a really good class.
The quest is cool and the class is really good. And then Bounty Hunter, which again is never shown up for me.
Yeah.
I don't know, just bad luck. So I apparently he's very powerful, is my understanding in the meta, but I have not.
He's got like a grappling hook. You can bring people out of position. Is one of the things, and does a bunch of damage, like to mid ranks.
He has a no setup stun as well, which I think is super rare. Like being able to stun without having a combo token. Let's talk about the flavor of these regions.
Love it.
Where you're going to actually do this stuff. Because this is a huge win in the game. I like all of these. I like these in the first one. These are better, I think. Yeah. Just different ways that people reacted to the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
So talk about the sprawl first. On the first confession, you're going to go through both the sprawl and the tangle. You just choose which order you're going to do. And this is a burning city that is in the process of being destroyed. This very charismatic religious leader took over and whipped up everybody into this fervor where they burn books.
Yes. And then burn everything. You know, they worship fire, including burning themselves. So this is a group of candle people. They're all of their flesh is melted over their eyes. Parts of them, their bones are showing. You know, it is just this melted candle people.
More tallow than man.
Really scary. And the idea here is just in the end of everything, they're erasing human accomplishment. They're trying to get rid of the idea that humanity was ever here to appease this force, you know. Mechanically, this is the burn region. So enemies are more vulnerable to bleed and blight, very resistant to burn. You can still burn them, but they're more resistant. And this enemy class, they have this move called Ignite, which they can do this as a free action. It heals them a little bit, and then they get buffs. They can do specific actions. Yeah.
This is part of what makes this region easy, is that the enemies don't become truly dangerous until they ignite.
Yeah. I think that these two regions are actually pretty doable there. These guys are a little dodgier. The Tangled are more tankier, you know, and it's going to depend on which one you want to deal with more, you know, but they end up being kind of similar.
For each of these regions, I picked one enemy who stuck out as being like mechanically real cool. So for this one, it's the Sacrificial. This is a charger. It's like a suicide bomber kind of guy. He will start out at the back and then work forward in the ranks. And when he reaches the front, he will explode. And do a ton of damage, which is a little bit of like a preview of what happens with the area's boss, the librarian.
Yeah. You want to just, if you put a dot on this guy, he's basically, that'll take care of him before he gets to the front. But you just have to prioritize him. The boss here is really good. The librarian, teetering madly on a ladder in this library in front of stacks of books. Every turn, these books have a certain amount of HP. He will do damage to them and burn them, making his way towards you. Every time he finishes a stack of books, he does a fire attack to the whole party. In between that, though, he's not really concentrated on doing damage to you.
No.
He's trying to fuck you up. He blinds you. The attacks have fun names. There's it's like mandatory reading, and he just throws a book at you, which I love. Very cute. Yeah. And then he has a unique attack. He has Categorize, which puts your characters in alphabetical order.
I didn't notice that. I didn't see that effect. I thought it was just a shuffle.
Yeah, it puts you in alphabetical order, which is really cute. I love it.
You didn't alphabetize this coat. Move the zipper to the bottom.
It's real good. Yeah, exactly. So the way you need to have backline damage is the strategy. You don't want him to get up to the front. If he does his fire attack every turn, and you die.
You could also fuck him up because the attack that he does on the last, so he won't do that attack unless he kills a stack, basically. So if you move him around, he only burns the one that is right in front of him.
Yes.
So you can fuck him up that way too.
And if you move him to the front while there's still books, he will waste a turn going back.
Yes.
So moving him and putting him to the end, the back of the row, will take care of him. Yeah. Plague Doctor is really good. For this, you just stack Plague Grenade on him over and over and over and over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you don't want to have, your leper has nothing to do in this fight. Like, there are, if you have a frontline heavy party, you can't do anything, really. If you beat him, I can't remember what the trophy does for this exactly.
No, I didn't make a note of that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Some of them are cool. Specifically, the ones for the Fetter and the Tangle are really good. The Tangle is the next one. This is this big, thick, thorny forest. And the idea here is that there was a battalion. We sent an army to go fight the cultist, but this force basically put them all to sleep, rotting in this forest. Yeah, this magic.
And then
so it's the remnants of a war that was never fought. Yeah. Really cool. Enemies here are weak to burn, and they're weak to all of the different statuses, but they have a lot of guard.
Yeah.
So that the DOTs are really effective here, but just pure damage is a little bit less effective.
Right. The special enemy type I highlighted here is the drummer. They do really powerful whole team buffs as long as they're alive. So you want to take them out.
And they have a beautiful sound. Very catchy little things I really like.
Yeah. There's one when speaking of sounds, there's one sound effect on the highwayman when you do it. It makes like this like sword unsheathing sound. There's like this bright ding that is precisely the sound that is made in EverQuest when you level up.
Oh,
it's like shing. So every time I did it, it had this like Pavlovian. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. Another character is leveling up in a different game.
I love the boss on this from a flavor and a mechanical perspective.
He's great. Yeah, I love him. The Dreaming General, who doesn't really fight you. It's just this general in repose covered by plants growing in and out of his armor. And the way he kind of he doesn't actively fight you, he does it psychically while plants around him try to put you in the same position.
Yes.
By holding you in place.
Yeah, so they'll come up from the bottom and root you, and they will come down from the top and then make it so if they grab you fully, they make it so the only move you can do on your turn is Mad Whispers or something like that.
Yeah.
And that does stress damage to other people. So this is aiming to kill you by inflicting stress damage.
Yeah. You just need to be able to hit the back row with something a couple times a turn. If you do it too often, he will withdraw all of his vines, and then vines will come from the ceiling to mark people for a AoE attack of undead coming at you.
Yeah.
So it's basically managing that meter.
Yeah.
This boss and the librarian can both be very easy as long as you have back row stuff and you know how to do it. The next two regions are much tougher. There. The next one is the Fetter. I love the Fetter. Again, one of my favorite horror tropes is terrible fecundity.
Yep.
There's this farmland that's very fertile, and the madness came. The landed gentry got overwhelmed with hunger.
Yeah.
Ate their crops once they went rotting, and then started eating each other.
Yeah. So this is basically a whole kingdom. It's a whole land of nothing but the adjudicator.
Yes.
Is what it is.
They look like that too. They grew extra mouths on themselves. These are some of my favorite designs in the game. Here, these are incredible.
These are also my favorite roads. Generally, you're driving the stagecoach down. I'm not paying too much attention. I'm just trying to hit the piles or whatever. But just the fact that this is like you get this big sprawling farmland where you're going down like a lane in these corn rows. In these cornfields, it's real like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like sunset. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Children of the Corn shit. It's real good.
Yeah.
So these enemies will eat each other. They eat the corpses of their fallen allies, and this gives them buffs. There are also fodder enemies that show up that are just there to heal.
Guys that can just be eaten a little bit. You can snack on your fingers.
Yeah, you take bites out of them, and they all do it to each other. It's this disgusting orgy of like eating each other. The flavor is fucking impeccable.
Oh yeah,
really, really good here. The boss for this area that I have is one of my favorites from a flavor perspective too. It's a cornucopia baby.
Yeah.
The harvest child who you can hear crying as you go through the level. And Wayne June will call it out. You go and find this born from a half-eaten mother. Like at the moment of birth, they were eating her mother and had this horrible little fucked up baby.
It's like if the kind of Blade is what that is.
Yeah. It's the day walker.
It's the day eater. Yeah.
Yeah. The day eater. Yeah, exactly. It's a, really disgusting little eraserhead baby. And the way he's in the back and there are two piles of food here. He's going to try to get you up front by having the food tempt you. They send like wafting aromas at you, which give you a little dinner dog, like fork and knife debuff that will make you move forward and waste your turn eating this rotting food, which will heal 1 stress and then give you a negative 15% max health penalty.
Oh shit!
Until the end of battle. And you can't use your turn. You keep doing that as he walks forward and does the Maws of Life attack from the pile of flesh from the first game. So the idea here is you want to be able to not move. The Dreaming General, his trophy will lock all your characters in place.
Okay.
Kind of permanently. Yeah. So that makes this a lot easier. But the characters all have unique barks for when they eat, and it's really good. They're just like, don't stand in my way, a little taste won't hurt me. Things like that. Like they're being bewitched by the forces that are making everyone supernaturally hungry.
Oh, that's so
here.
good.
I love the Harvest Child so much. It's one of my favorite designs in the game. Super fucking scary.
I never got to the next area. The Shroud, just on a higher confession that I got to. This is Innsmouth again. It's kind of like the Cove from the first game, right?
Yeah, really hard. This is a seaside town. The people made a pact with this ocean god and became the fisher folk. Again, Innsmouth stuff. The two gimmicks here are these are the bleed resistant enemies, and there's the fog, which goes throughout this whole region, which will blind you. So that's a big bummer.
Yeah.
Here.
There's a region specific debuff that these folks can do called barnacles. They spray shitty water on you and they put the barnacle on you. And it means if you move out of rank, like anytime you move, you get bleed on you.
Yes. And they'll also try to move you, as such. These are a lot weirder than the fishmen of the Cove, which look like fishmen. These are like half human astronaut fishmen. A lot of them are in like little tanks. And stuff, including the cabin boy, who is this boy in this little bubble. Similar to, there's a boss or an enemy like this in the Cove as well, where you had to kill him on a timer. If you don't kill him fast enough, he explodes into a tough regular enemy, like an elite enemy. And the boss here I've never beat. This is the only boss I haven't beat, which is the Leviathan. I've only fought him a couple times. I just haven't had the luck for him. He's very simple. He breathes on you to give you barnacle and blind you, and then puts a hand out to grab one of your characters and pull them under, similar to the Siren. Not the Siren, the Hag in the first game. Doing damage and taking your turn. You have to fight the hand while still doing enough damage to the Leviathan.
Right.
Like I think I could probably do it now if I came up against it, but I just haven't come up against it with a good run.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Never been to the Sluice. This is a really recent addition, right?
No, the sluice has been there for a while. It randomly appears. Okay. So every once in a while, the sluice will be an option. You get bonus candles for doing it. You can't map it. You're always going blind. And it's the Warrens from the first game overgrown. It's, the pigman pigmen tunnels. The pigmen tunnels you go through there. The big thing here is you fight all the pig enemies, and Wilbur, who was the little pig from that boss, is grown up now. And now he has the headband and he's doing the smashing. That's really it though. Okay. You want to go here because you get those bonus candles.
Right.
It's tough, but it's fine.
It's also short is what I read.
Yeah.
Like it's more intense battles, but there are fewer of them.
Yep. Yeah. Not being able to see anything on the map and not being able to make choices makes this tough, a little bit, but again, you get those bonuses.
Yeah.
The mountain, at the end of any of these, you do a cultist encounter, and on the mountain, you'll fight the cultist encounters.
Right.
These are weird Eldritch masked beings. We're not going to talk about all of them or anything like that. Sometimes they'll have a mini boss along with them, and they have a mechanic called worship.
Yes.
And the way worship works is support characters generate it as a thing, these little worship tokens, and then give worship to the boss characters to allow them to do a very powerful attack. These do a variety. They're not specialized in anything. Like they do stress. They do all the different DOTs.
This was the like the faction that most often put the horror effect on characters.
Yes,
which amplifies the stress damage that anything takes.
Oh, it gives stress over time.
Yes,
is what that does. Yeah,
and the bard or the jester, it can remove that. So this is one of their times to shine. And also the cultist, this changes the most on confessions. I understand. Like you start working up the ranks in the church. Who's going to come down and get you.
They introduced the two. There's two boss characters, like one kind of miniature boss, and then one stronger boss, who's kind of this gross flesh centaur thing that unlocks, and the unique buffs they get. There's these things, these little heralds, which are little globs of things that are not. Those actually aren't the heralds. They're the
altars,
cherubs,
right?
Altars.
Oh, the cherubs.
Altars and cherubs. The altars give a buff. So if you're on like denial, then it will make a character have a chance to be invisible. You can't strike them. Things like that.
Yeah. Those altars, you want to prioritize them because if they're the last thing left, they will explode. And cause a ton of damage.
They also heal the boss, which is good. So you get past those and you get to the final boss. You go up the mountain. The mountain, there's no hazards for your wheels. You can take consumables that'll increase your torch, but there's no encounters other than a couple fights.
Yeah.
You do 1 on the first one, 2 on all the subsequent ones. And then you fight a bespoke boss.
Right. Different for each level of confession. And these are different body parts that involve or are symbolically related to the flaws of the scholar. Kind of, formed by his personality and his shortcomings.
Yeah. It's kind of a bummer that the first one of these is the least cool looking. I think these look great, except for this first one.
First one's conceptually kind of fun.
It's a cool idea. I think it's a cool fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so the Shackles of Denial is the first fight. It's a big brain with 4 locks hanging nearby. This. And these locks, each round for free, they get to disable a category of skills.
Yeah.
So no range attacks, no melee attacks, no stress healing, no regular healing.
Right.
Depending on that.
And that covers a lot of stuff that you do.
Yes. You have to be able to adapt to that. You know, one of the big things is doing the thing when you can, right?
Yes.
So like if you have laudanum, which is an item that lets you heal stress regardless of where you're at, if stress is on the menu and maybe a character has like 4, you still want to use that laudanum even though they're not maxed out because you might get 2 rolls of not being able to stress heal for 2 turns in a row.
Yeah.
Things like that.
And this fight is shaped by the order in which you choose to take these out. Yes. Because when you knock out one of those locks, it gets rid of that prohibition, from the possibility there. But also, as these die, they give big buffs to the other ones. Yeah.
So generally not super, super hard, especially if you can resist stun for this. Several of them will stun the lion lock. Stuns, another one does. So the way that I got past this first was getting the stun resistance item in the inn, like buying that in the final inn, and making that miss. Other than that, you just need to be able to do a lot of damage.
You gotta be quick. Yeah.
It's kind of a race. When the first one dies, it will give a buff to the other ones and heal them a little bit.
Yeah.
For that.
The resentment, I never got to this, which is unfortunate. All of the other ones I've had to just like look at videos of the encounter and read about them. I fucking love the design on the seething sigh. It's so fucked up.
It's my favorite of these for sure, except for the body of work, which I think is really, really great. But the seething sigh is a lung dragon. It's a dragon made of lungs. It's hard to describe it other than that.
It's
like a dragon made of lungs.
It's like the trachea and the like the larynx connected to these big wing-like lungs, but it's the lungs without the sac around them, and it almost looks like emphysemic or like tumorous, like the different alveoli that are like protruding out. It is an incredibly good visual design. And this fight seems interesting because it's all about dots, right?
Yeah. Well, it's about keeping the lungs down. Like the lungs will take a deep breath.
Yeah.
That will give them a thing that will empower the big breathing out attack. You have to be able to spread out your damage.
Yes.
And do damage to the main boss while also doing damage to the lungs on the side.
The strategy that I read was stack dots on the main guy and then attack the lungs to keep them from doing the deep breath. So it can't do the big super damage thing.
You have to stop it from doing the super damage thing, basically. So you need to be able to hit all ranks very well with that. Not too bad. Focused Fault was the one that they changed a lot. I can't remember what it did in the first one, the early pre-patch stuff.
I don't think it changed too much what actually did. I think the thing that they messed around with based on what I read was more about the way it presented what it did, because it was very unclear or counterintuitive, I think, based on what I read.
They definitely changed it.
Okay.
They definitely, like, that's part of the meta discussion, but I don't follow like patch after patch.
Right.
I just haven't played this game enough. Like, and again, I put in like 130 hours or something. I don't play it as like a streamer.
Fucking tourist.
Yeah, I'm just a tourist, honestly. Like, I'm not playing this every day for Twitch, so I don't know. The way it works, it starts off as a bunch of little eye stalks that you have to beat down. They will continue to grow. You have to keep hitting them down, and they will look at a party member and give them the observed token. And you want to take these out. A way to get around this is get these all in one character. So having taunt is really powerful. Once you get rid of them, it becomes a big cloud of eyes. And this big cloud of eyes has this ability that will hit anybody who is observed really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like just absolutely like a truck. You cannot survive it.
Yeah.
Like 70, 75 damage, that kind of thing. You're going to go to death's door. And it gets 2 attacks. So depending on how your speed works out, this can fuck you.
Yeah.
I ended up having the trinket from the Harvest Child, which gives on everyone's turn when they start, they get a 33% chance to heal 2, which is what saved me from this, is not having to waste turns to get them off of death's door.
Okay.
Because the way death's door works is you can always take a hit no matter how big it is. It just brings you to death's door.
Yeah.
There. So pretty hard though. Like, it was very hard. Now he was only really attacking those people. My 2 people in the back could just keep fucking with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, you've got to manage who gets observed in the first round.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Ambition. This is the Ravenous Reach. This arm demon made up of hands and arms and fingers all put together, who gets buffs and steals your buffs.
Yes.
From you. And will take them, and you want to get rid of his buffs as well.
Yeah.
So the Highwayman gets a skill called Highway Robbery, which allows you to steal buffs or get rid of them. Enemies. That's very powerful here. I've only fought this guy once.
Okay.
When I beat him, so I haven't gone through this confession very many times.
Looks like a Final Fantasy, like a really fucked up like Final Fantasy boss.
This one and the body of work both look like good Kefka's to me a little bit.
Yeah,
like
the body of work is
Kefka's
extremely Kefka-esque. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Kefka's great, but I like this Kefka better because instead of a Bishan and Fuck Angel at the top, it has a horrible skeleton and a throne.
Yeah.
As a head, which I'm gonna like more than just a winged clown.
Yeah.
At the final one is Cowardice, the body of work. A 3-phase fight as you're moving up the body of this thing. The guts of your Cowardice. I can't remember the second one. It's an eyeball with teeth.
Yeah.
Okay. And then a throne at the top with the skeletal corpse at the top instead of a head.
Yeah. Body of work is an excellent name for this.
It's really good
because everything has been body parts, and then just to see it all assembled. Yeah.
And it has the double meaning.
Yes.
You're facing your failures, literally. The things you've done. This is similar to the fight at the end of Darkest Dungeon 1, except more successful, I think.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gimmick fight. He has 999 hit points, which seems impossible. But each character will get a little highlight where they have to face their failure.
Mm-hmm.
And you fight something from their shrine missions.
Yeah.
So like the man at arms fights the ghost of one of the men he got killed.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you get a huge buff and you do 200 damage to the boss. So he's very hard, but you basically 800 free damage.
Yeah.
As you go. It's like the end boss of the first one. It's not as hard as the things leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like a, little victory lap.
Yeah. But like
kind of do the themes.
A nice big bow that ties the themes together and still engages with the mechanics. Yeah.
There's this after you win, after you get through this, you beat him, you get this very beautiful little like paragraph soliloquy from Wayne June about humanity and how after all it is a flawed hypothesis. We're doing our best here. It is a flawed hypothesis, a canted angle.
Yeah.
That never quite got there. Just really, really nice words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There.
And then the heroes set about trying to rebuild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the game continues because it's a roguelike.
Of course.
You can keep trying it and keep trying to do it better and do it more whenever you like.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep updating it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Darkest Dungeon 2.
Yeah. I admire it. I don't know if I'm going to spend any more time playing it, but I admire it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like if this is your nip,
mm-hmm.
It's your nip.
Yes.
Right. Like this kind of combat is what I want out of video games usually.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of generally.
Yeah.
And then this with the flavor, like flavor matters. And this is just a very delicious kind of thing. I even like it more than the bleakness of the first one. I like this little hint of hope.
Yeah.
With it. It does a lot for me.
Yeah. You needed to set off the bleakness, I think.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to recommend because it does have that learning curve. Like you learn to read this game,
mm-hmm.
And for me, when I get certain kinds of things like, yes, I want that, and certain kinds of things I don't, and there's not really an explanation for it, mm-hmm. It's just your shit. And it's like, yes, I want to learn the skill. I want to get good at this versus I don't want to spend the time to get good at this.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. I understand why this is less successful than the first one because it is more specific. It feels more narrow casted to me.
Yeah. Which, that it can be that, right? Like they had that huge success with Darkest Dungeon 1, and that gave them the resources to take a risk. And I think that their goal of differentiating this was very successful. I think that also was a problem because they created such loyal fans with Darkest Dungeon 1, and also I think maybe cultivated a bunch of folks maybe who couldn't be pleased with anything different, possibly.
There was a lot of they changed it so it sucks.
Yeah.
Stuff with this. And that is a bummer, because like even though I would have liked Darkest Dungeon 1.5, mm-hmm. I don't want to begrudge these creators. Like they're obviously thoughtful in what they're doing. Like I think it's better for the art form that they get to make this and try it. And I want to see ideas from this and ideas from the first one still even
mm-hmm.
kind of get borrowed into things. Like I think that there's probably space, we talk about those levels of abstraction for combat. There's probably even space between this and the level where you are shunted into carrying things outside of the combat.
Yeah.
Where you could hit a balance between those two things even.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still want the Pokemon game where you fight all four of the Pokemon at once.
Yes.
And it uses this kind of system where there's like positioning and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe not as harsh. It's not as complicated, but I think that would go down really well.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun. The idea that you can make combat the focus of something, not just something you can ignore, and have it be this kind of turn-based and this kind of representation, I think is really admirable.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Love to see more of it. But not gonna be for everybody.
Nope.
It could be for me and Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack. You don't need to apologize and nobody needs to apologize for executive producing, making a choice, right?
Yeah. You're supporting us in a big bad way. Certainly don't. We thank you. You don't apologize to us.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate it. If you have things to say about this game or this month's games, Case of the Golden Idol, Darkest Dungeon 2, or Blasphemous 2, you have a little bit of time, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Write in by January 15th to Duckfeed.tv/contact.
Yes. If you have thoughts about February's games, which are Crazy Taxi, Unavowed, or Age of Empires 2, the deadline there is February the 15th. Again, Duckfeed.tv/contact. If you have thoughts about multiple games, break them out into multiple responses, and please try to keep them brief and specific.
Yeah. If you're not demographically identical to us, by which meaning you're not a straight white male, cis us, and you have a project you'd like us to shout out, please send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv. Include your pronouns, include relevant details and links and stuff. This month, I want to do a shout out to a creator online who is a sex worker and creates content named Ingrid. You can find her Linktree at Linktree, which is spelled in an unintuitive way. It's linktr.ee, and then /repulsive Ingrid. And check out her stuff if that kind of spicy content sounds good to you. Yeah. And if you have something you'd like us to shout out, please, Gary@Duckfeed.tv.
Send it our way.
Yeah. What else can people do?
Well, people can back us on Patreon. That is how you get the premium episodes. So Blasphemous 2 next week, or Age of Empires next month. Get the full versions of those, plus a bunch of other stuff. We called out Real Lich Hours, our Baldur's Gate 3 show, a few times. I think we're doing really good work over there. If you're interested in strategy stuff, that is, I think, going to be an enjoyable place to go. In addition to like Unfilmable and a bunch of other stuff, we try to make it valuable. Yes, yeah, we do our best. You can pop in and listen to the episodes and pop out if you need to. Yeah, it's okay. It's up to you. Ratings and reviews are also very welcome. Subscribing in the podcast directory you use, but non-optionally, join us in thanking our producer Gwen. You must. Yes, mandatory. You have the token that makes you go to the front of the line and thank Gwen. Yes. Oh. Yeah. It's shaped like a little punk guitar. Yeah. A bass plays. Yes. The most punk of guitars. Yes. Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah. What should they do until next time? Until next time, look out for each other. I think that's the theme of this. Yeah. Carry that candle of hope. Yeah. You fucked up. It's okay. Just try to fix it.